Welcome into Sports Time. Bryant and Brett with you in our Family Leisure Studios. Landon Schmidt producing for us. We're Sports Time. We're with you for the next 3 hours. After the weekend, a lot to get to over these next 3 hours. And Brett is back from a little bit of vacation time. Brett, welcome back. Glad to have you back. How was your time off?
It was great, Bryant. So glad to be with you and Landon, to be able to be with everybody today to start 2025.
Yeah, how about that?
Did y'all play Lombardo?
Well, Brett, it was the schedule was a little weird. You know, it wasn't technically New Year's Eve, our final day, and getting out early and different things. So, unfortunately, no.
We'll catch him next year.
We will. We will have to catch up with him next year.
We'll catch up with old guy Lombardo next year. But Monday, January 6th, 2025, I know nobody writes the year anymore like we used to. When you've told me before, you think you've written one check in your life?
Yes, only if that. I don't know if I've written one check in my life. I have a checkbook.
That's
amazing.
That.
I think I have a checkbook.
That is amazing. But, used to we did all the time, and usually by the sixth day you have a couple times. Oh, yeah. I think today on the run sheets, the first time I've looked at and written and kind of thought about 2025.
Yeah, I still have to have that mental note. Posting podcasts every day for some of the earlier shows. You have to put the date and the year, and so yeah, I've tripped up more than a couple of times these first 6 days.
Here we go, and I think like a lot of people, I'm glad today we know the day and the date. It got very confusing there for a while, but we know this is a Monday, and we know it's a new year, and really, really looking forward to it. The NFL playoffs, I can't believe we've got a 14-win team that's a 5 seed.
Yeah, it's crazy. And, Brett, it goes back to what you were saying a lot throughout the year of this year in the NFL is so different than what we usually have because there's a lot of really good teams, there are a lot of really bad teams, and there's not many in between that. And so I think that's why we're seeing, a lot of just really crazy records up at the top with how competitive some of these divisions have been.
The NFL, they probably do the best of any of the leagues, college or pro, of having a real vibrant middle class.
Yeah.
I don't know that it did this year. I know that it didn't.
Yeah. No, it absolutely didn't. And so, it's crazy to see how it is all kind of shaken out. But I'm really excited for these playoffs that we're getting ready to start.
I am too. We'll get to the wild card weekend coming up this weekend. Still a lot of college football. Hard to believe on January 6th we're still talking about 3 college football games left to be played.
Yeah. We're January 6th, 2025, and we're about to start really just getting into what happened in the quarterfinals, not even the semifinals yet. So.
And that speaks to, I'm glad we have a playoff. I am so glad we have a playoff. I was always for one, but I warned with having a playoff 20 years ago. Okay, fine. And so many people play it on the field. Okay, fine. I'm fine with that. But I do know this. Once we get to that, you're asking people to play a lot more football. And football is not really a bracketed sport. I know high school has gone to the far-flung brackets and to the 2 teams that eventually end up winning state championships really anywhere in the country, especially the larger states, California, Texas, Ohio, Florida. You end up playing almost as much of a playoff season as you do a regular season. Look at the Texas Longhorns right now, 13-2, and still could have 2 more games. That's a lot of football.
Have a 15-win season for Texas if they
and 2 losses.
Yes, and 2 losses, which would be
if you win it all. And that's a lot of football. And Brian, I also warned then that when we get to playoff mania, to bracket mania in college football, to playoff centric, that's the driving force of football of the sport. I know what it's going to do to a lot of bowls, to a lot of good bowls, to a lot of bowls that have been around for a long time. And I can tell you, at the Gator Bowl, Ole Miss had a bigger crowd last spring watching Joey Chestnut eat hot dogs than it did at the Gator Bowl.
Oh man, Brett, I almost forgot about the how special that spring game was with Joey Chestnut.
That's a word for it.
Well, it was something, but
had more people watching a man eat hot dogs than at a Gator Bowl. At one time, just the mention of Ole Miss and Gator Bowl and going to Florida, that would sell 25,000 tickets overnight. Might cobble together 35 to 40 once you got there, and it was maybe 1,000 Duke. I'm going to be nice and say 9,000-10,000 Ole Miss, and I'm being nice. 9,000-10,000 Ole Miss, and a smattering of local Jacksonville people. And I went to the Liberty Bowl, and I saw the very same thing here. About 1,000 Texas Tech, about 15 to 18,000 Arkansas fans, and a smattering of local.
Yeah,
that's not much, and I knew it was going to happen, and especially if you enter into the season like Memphis and like Ole Miss did, that it wasn't our bust. It wasn't you're going to be out of business or you're not ever going to care again. But that was the focus.
The expectations were to make the playoffs.
That was it, and anything that fell short of that in a pass-fail world was a fail.
Yeah. And I think, we talked about that throughout the season. Landon and I talked about it a lot kind of as we got closer to these bowls, especially the Ole Miss game. But, I think the fact, and we were talking about this last week, that, all those guys stayed and wanted to play in this bowl game, especially Jackson Dart. And to go out there, I don't think it was a surprise at all that they were going to put up a lot of points in that game, being kind of that last hurrah for this group.
Yeah, they and the team and the staff wanted to blast Duke, and it wasn't just Duke. Some of it was real rancor and enmity, not necessarily at the ACC, but at Wake Forest.
Oh wow,
our Ole Miss people still hot over during the game at Wake Forest. Them saying, "Oh, by the way, we're not coming to Oxford next year," and there were people that were really wanting to put the wood on Duke. And did. Now, when I say that about the bowls, please don't misunderstand me. That treated grandly, treated royally by the Gator Bowl people, and I had a good time at the Liberty Bowl with my Arkansas friends and seeing the Razorbacks play. Had a great time, and I hate it for both of those old guard bowls.
Yeah.
The Gator Bowl, the 6th oldest, Liberty Bowl, the 8th oldest, Citrus Bowl, 7th, by the way. But I hate it for those people that a lot of those people they'll take a week of vacation to work around those bowls, to work at the functions, to work at the parties, to make sure the buses and everything is going off, to be at every event. And they really work hard. It's very diligent. The Gator Bowl people were great. Liberty Bowl people always are. I hate it for them that they're putting that much work into something now that because of the playoffs, it's really been put on the back burner.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, and you look around. It's a lot of the bowl games, and especially some of these, like you said, the more historic bowl games, the ones that have been around for a long time. Having to kind of take that back seat because of the playoffs, and kind of having that feeling that you just kind of mentioned it with Ole Miss going to the Gator Bowl of, oh man, we're going to the Gator Bowl? When used to, that was not the case. And so it really is a shame for a lot of these bowl games.
Upper Deck was not even open at Everbank Field. It was just strictly, no need in it. You could have shut down a couple of the bathrooms.
Well, you can never have too many bathrooms, Brett.
I guess not. They shut down the elevator post game because it didn't work.
Oh, good Lord, that's not good.
And Jacksonville is getting ready to do a lot to the stadium. But here to start the new year for the Memphis Tigers today in the top 20, and don't get too upset, people, about where the rank falls. Just keep on winning, keep plugging away. And yesterday was proof of that. Just win, baby.
Yeah, and you knew that was going to be an ugly game against North. Anybody that has seen North Texas play, I think you saw that type of game coming. And even Penny Hardaway after the game, talking to the media, said, when we sit around and watch North Texas, I didn't really expect this to be a blowout because of the way that they play defensively, the way they slow it down. One of the slowest offenses in the country. But yeah, to look up and start play in conference play 2-0, and now you're in the top 20. I mean, a lot of things going really well for the Tigers right now.
Were you surprised at the margin in Boca?
Yeah, I was. And we talked about it a lot, that it was going to really come down to the three-point shooting. I thought, FAU, a team that going into that game, I think was averaging about 26.5 three-point attempts per game. So, take a lot of threes. If they were knocking down shots, and Brett, we've talked about it, Memphis's three-point defense has been kind of a question mark at times this year. If FAU was knocking down shots, it could be a rather close game. I did not think, however, that FAU would come out, not shoot the three ball well, and then just continue to try to shoot the three ball. And yeah, I was very surprised, being the first road game, being that conference game, because I know we've talked about it. This team is different from last year's team, but it is sometimes hard for anybody that age of 18 to 24, 25 to go onto the road in that type of environment when you've played such a tough non-conference schedule and say, yeah, let's keep our foot on the gas and really get after it. So yeah, I was pretty surprised with how big they won.
This is just a sensational 2-0 start.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to get to it with my top story on my feelings of yesterday's win and where the Tigers are now compared to this time last year. Look, I can add, I know it's one different, but stylistically, I think there's a lot of difference.
No, absolutely. And, you look at, the way last year's team went and this year's team went, I think you can make the argument throughout the entire non-conference. And I had a buddy that was making the argument with me of, well, they were, last year's team was great until really, into conference play was when everything fell apart with the team. But you just watch this team and how they carry themselves, how Penny is carrying himself this year as a coach. It is night and day different than what last year's team was.
It's night and day different. Number one in AP today is Tennessee, and now the lone remaining undefeated team in college basketball. The SEC over the weekend chipped away at three going into the weekend. Drake had lost, and Drake got blasted yesterday by Murray. Did you see that?
They sure did. Yes, that was surprising.
I was very surprised by that, and then you could feel Oklahoma getting whacked at Bama.
Yeah.
You could feel that coming, and then I thought Florida had a pretty good chance to pull the upset at Rupp. I'm not picking on John Calipari when I say this. It looks more fun and feels more alive in Rupp than it's felt in a long time.
Yeah, and I don't think, I think you can say that and it not be a shot at Cal at all, because it's a completely different style of basketball. It is completely run and gun and get up and down the court and taking a lot of threes.
Rick Pitino ball.
Yes, and so it's different. I think no matter if you liked, loved, hated, disliked John Calipari, I think a different style was a good thing at Kentucky. I think they were, they've been there, done that with Cal. It was getting tired with kind of that style of ball that Cal plays. And so, yeah, when you have a guy that you can bring in and he wants to shoot a lot of threes, he wants to take a lot of shots, and he has guys that are really fun and athletic players, yeah, it becomes a really fun style of basketball. And now with that win Saturday over Florida, which you talk about Florida having, having an opportunity to pull the upset, I think against any other team in the country, they would have won that game because they put up 100 points. It was 106 to 100 and lose. That's now the fifth time this season Kentucky has scored 100 or more points in a game. So they're definitely a fun team offensively to watch.
106-102, 40 minutes in college. And they got 48 in the NBA. That makes a big difference. The SEC Saturday in basketball lived up to it, but the home teams, they were 6-2. That really showed kind of the supremacy being at home, and that could hold. We will talk in our next hour, and welcome back with us David Cobb, and I will ask him what he thinks will win the SEC this year. I mean, could it be something like, could 12-6 win it?
Man, it's hard to think it could, but I mean it could with how tough this is. I mean, we talk about.
But you're going to have to lose at home for that to happen.
Certainly. But
I mean, a bunch.
Yeah, but you look at what this SEC is right now, and I would say the worst team in the conference has 4 losses. I mean, that is a really good conference that the SEC has right now in basketball. And so, yeah, it's going to be night in, night out. It's going to be a war for everybody. And I think you could see a lot of losses for some of these really, really good teams. Well, we've got a busy show today, so let me set up today's show before we get to top and not top story of the day. 3:30, we'll talk a lot more about the Tigers and their win over North Texas yesterday afternoon. 68-64 victory for Penny Hardaway and his team. We'll talk about everything we saw in that game in our next segment. 3:45, talk about the Grizzlies. They're back in action tonight against the Dallas Mavericks inside FedEx Forum after a long road trip. 2 games at home this week before hitting the road again for 4 more road games. So we'll talk about the Grizzlies, what they did over the weekend, and tonight's game against Dallas. 4 o'clock, David Cobb, he returns. He's been off for the last couple of months. Him and his wife welcomed their baby to this world, and so he's been doing the father duties. We'll have to check in, a little mental check on David Cobb, how these last couple of months have been for him. But he joins us from CBS Sports Talk College Football and College Basketball. A lot to get to with him. 4:30, we'll get to our Sissy's Log Cabin look back at the weekend in the SEC. 3 games to talk about this week with Texas and their win in the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl, Georgia and their loss in the All-State Sugar Bowl, and then Ole Miss's win in the Tax Slayer Gator Bowl. We'll talk about all 3 of those games at 4:30. 4:45, we get to big number of the day. 5 o'clock, DeMichael Cole, the Grizzlies beat writer over at the Commercial Appeal. He'll join us. We'll talk about the Grizzlies, what they did over the weekend, and some of these injuries that the Grizzlies are dealing with. We'll do that to start our third hour. 5:30, we'll talk about what's trending, and at 5:45, we'll wrap up today's show like we always do with Crunch Time. Let me remind you, we're in our Family Leisure Studios where family and fun come together. Get over there for the floor model sale. All 2024 inventory, it's got to go. Help them make room for the new 2025 inventory. All floor models up to 50% off. Cold plunge tubs starting at $49.99. Hot tubs up to $3,000 off with free steps and chemicals. Pool tables, arcades, ping pong tables, air hockey tables, foosball tables, all 20 to 60% off. And don't forget about the theater seating, up to 75% off. It's not too early to start thinking about pool season. Buy now and get on the schedule for install before the rush starts. So head over to Family Leisure, 2120 Witten Road, just north of I-40.
Always in our Family Leisure studio, Landon Schmidt producing. Bryant and Brett with you until 6 o'clock with Sports Time. We want you to be a part of our show by texting or calling the Sissy's Log Cabin text and talk line at 901-360-8255. All our guests will join us on the Sissy's Log Cabin guest line at 901-360-8255. Happy 2025 from everyone at Lexus of Memphis, the sponsor this hour every day, and they have been for years and years and years now, and thank you so much to them. They're at 2600 Ridgeway and online at lexusofmemphis.com. Great offers on all the 2025 models and always special leasing options. Drive in luxury and confidence knowing that every new Lexus comes with complimentary first and second maintenance services. Call them at 901-334-9673, but stop by the one and only Lexus dealership in town at 2600 Ridgeway and put yourself in the driver's seat of the all-new 2025 flagship LS500, and you'll be driving in style. When you purchase a Lexus, you get top-of-the-line engineering and design, and that makes for the safe, luxury driving experience. Online at lexusofmemphis.com. Experience amazing at Lexus of Memphis.
Top story of the day.
Well, my top story has got to be Memphis and their win yesterday afternoon over North Texas. I don't think anybody really thought that game was going to be a blowout, and it certainly wasn't, but it was a win nonetheless. And it was a game where I think we've talked about it a couple of times this year while talking about Memphis basketball. They've been able to win games in different ways. No matter what the style of opponent they play, they're able to win those games. And I think that tells you that you have a pretty good team. They've already kind of seen a team sort of like North Texas in Virginia, another team that really likes to slow it down, very defensive oriented, but seeing another one in conference play against North Texas, and they're able to get the win. They led by 1 point at halftime. It felt like at times in the second half that they had opportunities to really break that game open and run away with it. But against North Texas, that style, it was going to be hard. PJ Haggerty had a really, really nice game. He finished the game with 27 points, 5 rebounds, and 3 steals in 38 minutes of action. Tyrese Hunter didn't really shoot the ball well. He's 4 for 11 from the field, 1 for 5 from 3, but still making an impact on the court. 12 points for him, 6 rebounds, 2 assists, 3 steals. I think back to after the FAU game when Dave Woloshin was interviewing him post-game, and he said, or I guess Dave asked him about, it feels like no matter if you have 25 points in a game or if you have 5 points in a game, you're going to find ways to impact the game outside of just scoring. And Tyrese said, yeah, I mean, that's how I was kind of raised, of kind of trying to do everything to help the team win. He kind of looked back to when he was in high school as a freshman playing varsity and how, shots weren't going to come every game, but you find ways to make an impact. You definitely saw that against North Texas yesterday defensively. I thought the Tigers had a really nice game holding North Texas, who's a pretty good three-point shooting team, to only 22.2% from 3. Some time off for the Tigers now until Saturday when they're back at home against East Carolina.
My top story, Memphis Tigers basketball, just like you. To start the new year, 2-0 in league play, 12-3 overall, ranked 19th in the Associated Press. The Nets in good shape. Bracketologists love them, and they're way ahead of this time last year. Anybody miss JQ? I didn't think so. Yesterday was maybe the biggest win of the year. For the conversation it avoided. It avoided that home loss conversation. There may be a home loss. I don't think they can take more than 2 without a lot of damage being done to the net, but don't have to have that conversation today. It avoided that conversation, and this league is hideous. Look what it did to the net by winning. You lost a spot. I think North Texas, what they improved, 6 or 7 spots by losing.
Oh, wow.
Yesterday in the net. So the net's it's gonna come and go, sure. But great start to the new calendar year for Coach Penny Hardaway's Memphis Tigers.
Not top story of the day.
Well, my not top story of the day, Brett, I have to give some love to the start of the PGA season, the Century over the weekend. What a performance by Hideki Matsuyama.
35 under.
It was incredible.
How many birdies? He made more birdies this weekend than most people make in their lives.
Certainly more than I've made in my life, I can guarantee that. I mean, what a fun weekend. That is always a fun course. It is, beautiful shots.
Well, they rub it in. They dunk on everybody with that weather, don't they?
With the weather and just the shots. I mean, just every tee box, it feels like you have this nice view of the ocean and everything going on. So it was fun. It was
they flag plant at Kapalua, don't they?
Oh, they absolutely plant the flag. But Hideki Matsuyama finishes 35 under, the lowest score in a 72-hole event in PGA Tour history. Usually that event has a lot of wind. The wind's usually whipping around all weekend. It makes it a little tougher for these golfers, but the wind was down this weekend, and so it led to some very, very low scores. I kind of feel bad, though, for Colin Morikawa. He goes out and shoots 32 under and still loses.
What's it take?
I mean, really, but a lot of fun to watch some golf, and a little jealous because of how warm and how nice that weather looked and how cold it is here.
Now, they go to a real cold spot, about a degree or 2 cooler when they go to the Big Island to play the Sony next week.
Get the jackets out.
Yeah, my not top story, 43 bowl games and playoff games are now in the books, semis and finals, all that remain in college football and FBS. I went to 2 bowls, Liberty here and with Ole Miss to the Gator Bowl, treated well and had fun, saw blowouts, and I saw a blowout at one in a pretty good game. Arkansas really could do what they wanted to all night against Texas Tech. But it's different. It's different than it's ever been for me. And if it's different for me, a staunch bowl ally, lover through the years, what is it for a lot of other people? What it is for a lot of other people, if you're not in the playoffs, it's all the Gasparilla Bowl.
Yeah. unfortunately, I do not think you're in the minority on that. I've heard that from a lot of people watching bowl season this year, and it's a shame because there were a lot of really fun bowl games. I mean, all the overtime, close games we got, but I do think you are right. That'll do it for top and not top story of the day. We'll have to come back to this maybe during What's Trending. I know we'll talk some NFL coaching firings and different things, but they're just reporting this on ESPN. The Bears have requested to interview Cowboys head coach Mike McCarthy for their head coach opening. So maybe
Jerry Jones ought to call FedEx and see how much it would cost to ship him to Chicago.
I would love it. So I guess we'll wait and see.
Beeline to Coach Prime if McCarthy leaves.
I don't know. I don't know if Coach Prime would be number one on my list, but there are options out there that I would like more than I like Mike McCarthy. But it says they're still waiting for a response from the Cowboys. So we'll talk a lot about what is going on in the NFL in terms of head coach firings, who's staying. We'll probably do that around 5:30 during What's Trending. Let's go ahead and get to a break, and when we come back, we'll talk more about the Tigers and their win over North Texas. That's next on Sports Time.
Be sure to follow us at Sports56 WHBQ on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube to watch live video of our shows. Stay up to date with station events and have chances to win prizes. Don't miss out on anything that's going on. Follow us at Sports56 WHBQ.
If you need glass replaced, there's only one name you need to know. Binswanger Glass, the largest full-service glass company in the U.S. They've been an industry leader for over 145 years. For all your residential, commercial, or auto glass needs, Binswanger Glass is the name you need to know. 24-hour emergency service for all commercial customers, plus a nationwide warranty on all professionally installed glass. Visit Binswanger Glass in Midtown at 340 South Hollywood across from the Liberty Bowl. Visit BinswangerGlass.com. Binswanger Glass.
Deep in the hidden wetlands of Florida, there's a honey so rare, it's only harvested 2 weeks out of the year. Tupelo honey, the gold standard of honey, specially bottled by Smiley Honey.
Here's why Tupelo honey is so special. It never crystallizes. It's diabetic friendly with a low glycemic index. Pure, unfiltered, and natural. Straight from the hive to your table.
Tupelo honey from Smiley Honey, the gold standard of honey.
You know, I think people forget there's a Central Barbecue location in South Haven.
And that's on us.
Well, you...
What does that mean?
Well, you're the spokesperson for Central Barbecue. It's your responsibility to remind people there's a Central Barbecue in South Haven.
It's very convenient that I'm the spokesperson when there's responsibility to be taken.
Just mention the Central Barbecue location in South Haven.
Got a lot to remember. There's the location on Butler downtown. There's a location on Summer, on Poplar.
And Getwell Road in South Haven. How hard is that?
I've heard you call yourself a spokesperson for Central Barbecue.
No, it was just to pick up chicks.
Sports 56 traffic.
Good afternoon. Not bad right now, even over here in the construction on 55 north and southbound between Macklemore and South Parkway. It's pretty good shape at the moment on 240 east from Mill Branch all the way out to 385 Millmore's Parkway. That looks good as you head on out towards the Collierville area. Listen, Weimer's Jewelry, 7525 Highway 64. They are your full-service, family-owned jewelry store. Go by and see them. They're right here in Memphis. I'm Commander Chuck with your on-time traffic.
Now, Sports Time. Sports 56. This hour is brought to you by Lexus Service. Here are your hosts, Star Sports Movie, Brian Davis.
Welcome back into Sports Time. Bryant and Brett with you in our Family Leisure Studios. We got to talk about the Tigers and their win over North Texas yesterday afternoon, 68-64, the final score from FedEx Forum. A Tigers win that, you know, at times, especially early in that game, North Texas went on a run. They went on another run to start the second half. Maybe a couple of times where you were a little worried about how that game was going to play out, but ultimately, Tigers Tigers doing enough. They had the big, super deep three from P.J. Haggerty late in that game that really gave them a boost they needed. Tigers get the win, and now 2-0 in conference play.
That shot, that make by P.J. Haggerty, that was the swing point in the game. You knew after that the Tigers had them on a day that you didn't know all day that how it was going to turn out. I never felt like North Texas was going to win, but I thought they might have a ball with a shot in the air as the clock was expiring to win, but they didn't. The Tigers get the win by 4, shoot 54, almost 55% from the field, not very good from the three-point line, and had a lot of turnovers. Turnovers are catching in this town right now.
Yeah, no, between the Tigers and the Grizzlies, the turnovers are definitely an issue for this team. But, Tigers have found ways around the turnovers. And it's been kind of strange because you start, watching these games. I know they were talking about it against FAU. They talked about it a little bit more against North Texas. I've never heard commentators talk about turnovers the way they talk about them with Memphis, because it's almost more of a, well, that's just who Memphis is, and they are able to win games with them, and so it's okay. I just never really heard them talked about like that. But to the Tigers' credit, they're finding ways to win games despite all of the turnovers.
Yesterday, I didn't go to the game. I watched on television. How'd you consume? Did you go or watch?
No, I watched it.
Okay, I don't know if it was the courtside analyst or back in the studio, but somebody was talking about the anatomy of the upset, and it was playing out kind of. North Texas was playing it out perfectly.
I must have missed that part.
And Josh Pastner in the studio again yesterday with Seth Greenberg and the ESPN crew and crushing it. He is really awesome. Good at that. I think they should use him a lot more. I think he's very entertaining and has the buzzword of buzzwords these days. I think he's pretty relatable, don't you?
Yeah, I love him. I love him, and it feels like, I think it was last year where it felt like no matter what channel or online streaming you were watching of college basketball, you got a little bit of Josh Pastner throughout the year because he was on ESPN. I think he was on Peacock for some games streaming. It felt like he was everywhere.
And Josh, by his nature, is a happy warrior. Yes. Sometimes I would dig at him, chide him a little bit, and call him Jolly Josh. But that is his nature. He is not a brooding, paranoid, dug-in person. He is a fun-loving person, and I think that comes across not just because I know him and generally liked him, but I think it comes across. But they were talking about that. And it was there for North Texas if they had done a little more, but here's where it fell short. I think for any team, especially at FedEx Forum, the Tigers are probably going to lose a game at FedEx Forum out of the now, eight more they have left. I don't think people should freak out. Now, anything more than one and maybe who it's to might reserve some room for freak out factor. But yesterday, North Texas, only 4 made three-pointers. In that true anatomy of the upset, I think that number has to be 8.
Yeah, no, it's certainly got to be higher than 4. And that was a really good job, Memphis defensively. Just challenging a lot of those threes. I saw a couple that were wide open that were misses, a couple wide open that North Texas was able to knock down. But yeah, that was the lowest in terms of 3-point shooting North Texas has been held to all season long. So I thought Tigers did a really nice job.
It wasn't many open looks. It was a couple, but it wasn't many that you thought he's going to make that.
Yeah, no, it was a handful early, and then Memphis and Coach Hardaway made some adjustments, and they were a lot better defensively. Because early I thought it was going to be an issue for most of the game, but they were able to settle down defensively. I thought had a really good game on the defensive end of the court.
Brian, do you think a home loss will happen? A home conference loss?
I wouldn't put it past anybody. When it comes to conference play, I think, they'll probably have a loss at home in conference play. I think that just happens in conference play.
Whomever it's to, sure. I don't think it should be, that much noise about it. There for sure is going to be, I think, 1 or 2. I don't think anybody's expecting the Tigers go 18-0 in this league, even as poor as this league is.
Yeah, it's when it comes to a conference slate.
Don't know that you want
teams
to
lose games. Yeah, and I think, look, if they go undefeated in conference, that'd be great. but I'm not gonna project that. I'm not gonna try to predict that. But losses come, and you just have to get through them. And last night could have very easily been a loss at points of that game. It felt like North Texas was doing some nice things. So yeah, I think a loss will come eventually.
Tomorrow at 5:30, we are going to do 5 predictions local, 5 predictions national for the new year. Local will be a lot of Grizzlies, Tigers.
Sure.
It may dominate all 5 spots for both of us.
Yeah.
It could very well do that. I'm not gonna. I don't know where I'm going to have the Tigers finishing come March when I do that prediction tomorrow. But I'm not changing my preseason, what I think the Tigers should do now. I don't think it would be fair. In the preseason, I was just go to the NCAA tournament. Just be on that board.
Yeah.
I'm going to keep it at that for now because I don't think it would be fair to move 2 months we're into the season, mostly all of November, all of December, so about 2 months into the season. I don't think it would be fair that you had preseason just go to now Elite Eight, or we have some screaming hot take.
Yeah, no. One thing I hate is when people and people do it all the time is they move the goalposts, and obviously as we get more information, things change, and the excitement is there certainly. But yeah, going into the season, let's not forget what last year was. It was a disaster of missing the playoffs, being knocked out of the first round of the conference tournament, and then you go and you lose your entire roster. You bring back one scholarship player from last year's team, and it's a bunch of new faces, kind of similar to what it was the year before. And so, yeah, I think that goal should still be what it was preseason, and you just say, hey, look, they're well on their way to making that.
Because I was 8-5 non-conference, 10-3.
Oh man,
blows through that. That's much more than just 2 games difference.
No, much more.
Predict 8-5 and you end up 10-3.
Yes, way different. And so they've been.
And I think your non-conference was less than that,
it
wasn't it?
No, it absolutely was less than that. And so they've been really surprising. Really, the only thing that concerns me with this Tiger team, at least so far, what we've seen, has been the offensive rebounds they're giving up. That is, I think,
rebounded yesterday.
Yeah, I think that's a much bigger issue than the turnovers. But you give up 12 offensive rebounds yesterday, 19 I think it was against Florida Atlantic. It was something really high, and so they've got to do a better job defensively. Getting rebounds and eliminating those second chance opportunities, because it really almost hurt them in a big way yesterday against North Texas. Except
for UAB and their big man, they're not going to play many teams bigger than them. When you run out Danger and Musa, you're NBA compared to the other teams.
Yeah, and the way they're using those guys, where you have, I know Moose only played 15 minutes last night, but when you're starting him and then you're bringing Dane Danger off the bench, and so it's really 2 different waves of guys coming at you, where you've got the starter of Musa, and then right when they pull him, here comes Dane Danger. And so these opposing teams, it feels like they never get a break from a really good big man for the Tigers. And so I would just like them to be a little better rebounding wise, and because I think that would just add a ton if they could eliminate those offensive rebounds. Because I was looking at it earlier, Memphis has given up more than 10 rebounds, offensive rebounds a game in 13 of the 15 games this year. So opposing teams are having a lot of success on the offensive glass, and that's something I would love to see them improve on going later in the season, certainly before the NCAA tournament.
Tiger bankroll yesterday, it was kind of a mixed bag on going with or against the Tigers. This year, the Memphis Tigers are 9-6
been really good.
Against the point spread, 12-3 overall, 2-0 in conference, 9-6 against the point spread. Yesterday, I had North Texas for 25, got there with them. You had the Tigers for 20, you missed, and then Darian 100 on North Texas, and Connor 50 on North Texas. So we all 3 of the 4 of us got there against the points.
Yeah.
But you're 9-6 for the year picking Tiger games.
How about that? Feeling good, and really, yesterday was just one of those. Everything was telling me this is going to be a close game. But I don't know. Let's just try to go with the Tigers, and especially after I think I was the last one to get our picks back. So after seeing the chance of a group lock, I was like, this feels like maybe an opportunity to go against it. And
one group lock so far this year.
wow,
all of us taking the Tigers against Mississippi State. 0-1 group locks.
Oh, geez. Well, I wish I would have gone with my gut and gone with North Texas yesterday, and it would have been 1-1.
See, I was kind of the opposite of you on FAU. I know you and Landon probably went over this on Friday. 3 out of the 4 had Memphis, you, Darian, and Connor, and I went with FAU just thinking, first road game, it was nothing to it for the Tigers. Party's over at FAU.
Yeah, I mean, certainly right now, I really like this coach they have, and I think you give him some time and he can maybe do something. They're certainly not what they had Final Four run with that group of guys, but maybe can stay around kind of the top of this conference, but I think it'll take some time. This year's team, just not very fun to watch. I mean, they're a fun team to watch, but they're just not very good.
How fired up do you get every Monday noonish with AP being released?
I like to look at it. I don't get super fired up. I'll be honest. I think the last 3 weeks I've been producing John's show when it comes out, and I forget it's even coming out. And then I see Jason Munn's tweet out where the Tigers are in the poll, and then I'll go, oh, yeah, I need to go look at the top 25. But no, I mean, it's cool. Tigers being number 19 this week. Definitely cool to see.
I swear, there are some, no matter where the Tigers fall in the top in the rankings. If it was 2, there would be immediate reaction. Well, they really should have been 1.
Yeah.
In this week, 19. Well, they should be 17. It doesn't matter. No. It's something to just really kind of chest pump about. I mean, you don't need to be too worried about it. Yeah, you could wonder, why'd you beat a team like Michigan State and you're behind them? Don't spend too much time on that.
No. Ultimately, we know what matters, and certainly, net and different analytics like that are what the committee is going to be looking at. But even right now in January, I have a tough time checking the net all the time because just let these games play out, and then when we get later in February and kind of middle to late February, that's when all this stuff is going to start lining up in terms of where you could be for the NCAA tournament. But right now, Tigers doing what they need to do.
Net means a little more to me. Tigers today, 34, down 1 peg from 33. And I know the first thing most do is, why is Ole Miss in front of Memphis? I can't really answer that because I know what I saw on the floor, and it was a splattering.
Yeah, and that's just those analytics. I know a lot of people question, a lot of them. I know Kim Palm has gotten some heat from Memphis fans, but when you look at those kind of analytic things, it's more the numbers instead of maybe the eye test. And so no, I think the Tigers are in a really good spot in any sort of analytics, any sort of rankings you want to look at.
I said in top story, I thought it was the best win for what it avoided. What do you think is the best win so far this year to get to 12-3?
I'll still say UConn.
Because of
who,
back-to-back in that environment.
Yeah, I mean, who they are, when it was, what it was. I mean, nobody thought that Memphis was going to win that game. And so to win that.
Either time, tip or going into OT.
Exactly. Yes. And so, no, I think, what that win was, who it was against, I'll put that as the best win of the season.
Well, I hope the committee remembers that, though.
I do too.
March when they assemble.
Yeah, and it's tough in those because I think a lot of people look at MTEs and those early season tournaments in different ways, and I think you can make an argument for that when it comes to the AP poll. I think there are people out there that look at those and go, okay, well the 3 games in 3 days, travel, all of that stuff, and kind of put that in the back of their mind. But no, I think a really, really good win for the Tigers, and you're right. I hope that this committee remembers those back-to-back wins because it wasn't just UConn. It was the UConn win, and it was the Michigan State win that Michigan State has turned into a really, really good team. But like we said, next game for the Tigers will be Saturday morning against East Carolina, 11 a.m. tip-off at home against the Pirates. But let's go ahead and get to another break. And when we come back, we got to talk about the Grizzlies. They're back at home tonight against the Dallas Mavericks. We'll talk about that, what they did over the weekend in back-to-back games against the Kings and the Warriors. We'll do that next on Sports Time.
We are real sports talk. Sports 56 WHBQ. Available on your radio dial at 560 AM and 98.5 FM, as well as around the world online at sports56whbq.com. Take us with you everywhere by downloading the Sports 56 app. And at home, just say, Alexa, play Sports 56. Sports 56 and 95 FM.
Tito's handmade vodka is America's favorite vodka for a reason. From the first legal distillery in Texas, Tito's is 6 times distilled till it's just right and naturally gluten-free, making it a high-quality spirit that mixes with just about everything. From the smoothest martinis to the best Bloody Marys, beyond the bottle, Tito's has gained a reputation for giving back, teaming up with nonprofits around the world to serve its community and do good for dogs. Make your next cocktail with Tito's and learn more at Tito'sVodka.com. 40% alcohol by volume, mainly 80 proof, crafted to be savored responsibly.
T-Mobile 5G home internet keeps getting better. Get our fastest connection loaded with benefits. Get T-Mobile's best home internet starting at $55 a month with auto pay and invoice file. Plus, price lock. We won't raise your rate on internet. Check availability at T-Mobile.com/home internet. Exclusions and taxes and fees apply. Guarantees regular monthly rate plan price of fixed wireless 5G internet data with qualifying service. Up to $15 rate credit with postpaid voice line. Plus $5 a month without auto pay with debit or bank account. Regulatory fees included for qualifying accounts. $35 connection charge applies. Speeds vary due to factors affecting cellular networks.
Napa Cafe celebrates 26 years in 2024. Hi, I'm Glenda Hastings, owner of Napa Cafe, and I want to thank you for making us part of your dining experiences. Treat yourself tonight with a delightful dinner. Maybe start with an appetizer like our baked sweet peculiar peppers stuffed with goat cheese and mozzarella, finished with basil pistou, and move on to one of our cozy dishes like the double chocolate stout braised boneless beef short ribs with tonkatsu sauce and creamy mashed potatoes, or a fresh seafood dish like our pan-roasted ginger buttered sea bass with cilantro soy vinaigrette. I get hungry just talking about it. Don't forget about dessert, our famous sweet buttermilk pie with brown sugar sauce, or drink your dessert with one of our signature dessert cocktails, like the lemon cheesecake martini, lemony, icy, frothy, and dusted with graham cracker crumbs. Napa Cafe, open Wednesday through Saturday for dinner starting at 5 o'clock. For reservations, visit our website at napacafe.com. Come join us as we celebrate 26 years of Napa Cafe. We can't wait to serve you.
Sports 56 traffic.
Good afternoon. Not too bad. Even in the construction, it's moving at the moment. I-55 between Macklemore and South Parkway. It seems like it's picked up just a little bit more on Sam Cooper going outbound at Perkins. There at Highland. Still moving at the moment. 240 on to 385 Billmores Parkway. If you're continuing out towards Collierville, that's in pretty good shape. Hey, make a difference by adopting a pet at the Humane Society of Memphis, Shelby County. You can check out the animals that are up for adoption right now by logging onto their website at memphishumane.org. I'm Commander Chuck with your on-time traffic.
Now, back to Sports Time. Sports 56. This hour is brought to you by Lexus Service. Here are your hosts, Sports Movie, Brian Davis.
We're making into Sports Time. Bryant and Brett with you. We talked a lot of Tigers and their win over North Texas. Now we got to talk about the Grizzlies. They're back at home tonight against the Dallas Mavericks following back-to-back losses on the road. Friday night, it was a 138-133 loss on the road against the Kings, a game where Jalen Wells finished with 30 points, and then the next night, Saturday night, a 121-113 loss against the Warriors. But now they're back at home, but it's going to be a quick 2 home games and then back on the road for 4 more road games following this 5-game road stretch they were just on. It's been a lot for the Grizzlies lately. All of this travel, all of the injuries, now getting back home should help some things tonight.
that was a tough one, all things considered. Time of year, also, those people those they have people and families too that they have to be away from for a lot of the holidays. I really thought of Rob and the announce team as much as anything, having to be gone that much around that time of year. They get it Thanksgiving, Christmas. They get every holiday.
Sure do.
They're always busy. 2 and 3, I think I wanted 3 and 2, but I'll take it considering everything. And Brian, on opening day for the Grizzlies, if you had told me, okay, on y'all's first show to start 2025, Grizzlies are going to be at 23 and 13. I know the Tigers will be starting in a few weeks, but they're going to be at 12 and 3. I want to know somebody that wouldn't have signed up for those.
Yeah, no, sign me up right now. Right then, I would have immediately. Don't tell me who the loss. I don't care who it came to.
Don't care.
I don't care what it looked like. I'll sign up immediately.
Now, for the Grizzlies, the injury thing, and we will talk with DeMichael Cole in a little more than an hour or so, about hour 10. We'll visit with him as the Grizzlies get ready to play Dallas tonight. I don't know that I'm going to tee this up with him. There's no need putting him in this spot. And I'm not saying he's not returning because I know nothing. I'm ready to see Ja off that back in that court and out of that sling.
Yeah. Well, and you mentioned the sling. That's what Darian helped out in your absence a couple days co-hosting, and that was one of the first things he said is why. I think it was the first game that we saw Ja in that sling, and Darian said, I know it's not being reported as anything major. I know whatever, but just seeing him in a sling makes me feel not very good. And
sling different than a boot. A boot around sports. Man, heck, everybody's got on a boot.
That's
you sprain a toe, they'll put it in a boot.
Boots, yeah.
Sling's different.
Yeah, and it's just you see it and you go ooh, because it's a lot different. A lot of these guys, you see them on the sideline, they're in the street clothes, but they look like they're just hanging out. No biggie. Even when they have boots and stuff like that, you usually don't see much of it because a lot of the shots when they go to the sidelines are kind of waist up, and so you don't see that stuff. But yeah, seeing the sling,
couldn't miss it.
It sticks out like a sore thumb, and it doesn't make you feel good. So yeah,
that or a neck brace or one, something like
that's even worse. That's like
that's bad visual. Yeah,
very bad visual. But yeah, hopefully it was reported as week to week by Grizzlies PR, and so hopefully I know we kind of know what that means with the Grizzlies. Week to week can mean really anything. But yeah, you really want to get him back soon.
And the Dallas Mavericks say, "Cry me a river." Tonight they'll be without Kyrie Irving, and we knew they would be Luka less.
Yeah, and this team's really struggled since Luka went down. He got injured in that game against Minnesota on Christmas Day. Since then, 1-5 and on a 4-game losing streak right now. So I think the Grizzlies, a 4.5-point favorite is what I saw it earlier. I'm curious. I don't know. I looked at that line before the Kyrie Irving news came out, but it doesn't look like it's changed. Maybe Vegas already knew about that injury before that was announced earlier, but still at a 4.5-point favorite for the Grizzlies tonight. So at least Vegas thinks Grizzlies have a really good opportunity to bounce back.
I'm going to violate one of my unwritten rules of after you miss time, you just pick up where you jump back in. You don't rehash. But I am going to rehash.
Okay.
Where did your Christmas Day viewing go? Did it go NBA, NFL, or all over the place?
Well, Brett, you know me, and you know my mini screens.
Right.
So my television was NBA. NBA for me, Christmas is an NBA day for me. I know the NFL
and it was great.
Oh, it was fantastic. It definitely was better than the NFL action. But I did. I watched all of both of those NFL games. I had it on my laptop and watched every minute of them. But yeah, my focus I would say was more on the NBA on Christmas.
Well, you know me, and this audience knows me. I went NBA on TV, and WHBQ on radio, listening to the games.
Yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah, both those games on Netflix. So yeah, there was no way for you to watch those NBA or NFL games.
And there will be one of the playoff games will be on Prime, and we're on our way. This year, Super Bowl 59, I don't know the number, 8, 9, 10 years from now, it's going to go full on that. And all of this, everything we do is pay-per-view.
Oh, yeah.
It's just pay a little bit, pay a lot, or pay even extra. And we're going to get to pay a little extra pay-per-view on a Super Bowl someday. Definitely. But it's all pay-per-view. if you get a cable bill, you're paying for it.
Yeah, you're not watching it for free. But no, I think you're right. I think you're seeing.
It hadn't been free since we had 3, 5, 10, and 13 and out twisting around on the antenna.
Exactly. But no, I think you're right. I think we're moving towards that. You're definitely saying, I mean, with, what was it, last year there was a playoff game on Peacock. Now this year you've got one on Prime, which is a little more familiar with the Thursday night games. But yeah, you're moving to it with Netflix now getting into the game with those Christmas Day games. It's a lot, and you always see the numbers out there for having to get all of these subscriptions. But
when will NBA Eastern Conference Finals or Finals go to extreme pay-per-view?
That's a good question. With Prime getting a big part of this new media deal, and even NBC, I don't think
try
NBC
it once,
will put
don't
it out there. I think they try it. I think it's a lot easier for the NFL because with the NFL they're gonna find it no matter where it is. I mean, we were making jokes the other day. I mean, you could put it on any streaming site that you wanted, and people would go and find it because it's the NBA. I don't necessarily think that's the same for the NBA, but the argument to people with the numbers, the ratings for the NBA is that what they are trying to point their game to is more to the younger audience, and they're streaming. So maybe it would be a good idea to try to jump into streaming. I don't know.
It's exactly where it should go.
Yeah.
They need 25-year-olds much more than they need me.
Exactly. And so you see with NBA they're doing a lot. Social media certainly a lot more than what other leagues are doing, and so maybe that is an incentive for them to jump quicker to having something big on a streaming only.
Speaking of NBC, did you see UConn and Providence yesterday on Channel 5 on NBC?
Did. How about that?
And there was a time that NBC was the go-to and had a lot of Sunday games.
Yeah, but that was fun watching
in college
yesterday.
basketball.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun seeing that, because NBC had a good day yesterday because it was that to start the day. Then they went from that to the golf, and then they went from the golf to Sunday Night Football. So it was a nice little triple header on NBC yesterday. But hopefully tonight Grizzlies can get a win. Again, Luka and Kyrie both going to miss tonight's game. Grizzlies right now a 4.5-point favorite at home, 7 o'clock tip-off time against Dallas. Well, let's go ahead and wrap up this first hour and get to a break. When we come back, I'm so excited. Our friend David Cobb, he's missed some time. Him and his wife had a baby a month and a half ago-ish, so he's been taking some time off to help out with all of that, but he's back with us from CBS Sports, talk some college football and college basketball. We'll do that next on Sports Time.
High-energy, full-body workout that utilizes the same equipment and technology employed by Floyd Mayweather to achieve his impressive 50-0 record. The workout features 4 types of heavy bags, treadmills, rows, battle ropes, weights, and much more. Visit Mayweather Boxing and Fitness, located at 2257 North Germantown Parkway in Cordova. Train like a champ. Mayweather Boxing and Fitness. 901-673-1267. T-Mobile 5G home internet keeps getting better. Get our fastest connection loaded with benefits. Get T-Mobile's best home internet starting at $55 a month with auto pay and invoice file. Plus, price lock. We won't raise your rate on internet. Check availability at T-Mobile.com/home internet. Exclusions and taxes and fees apply. Guarantees regular monthly rate plan price of fixed wireless 5G internet data with qualifying service. Up to $15 upgrade with postpaid voice line plus $5 a month without auto pay with debit or bank account. Regulatory fees included for qualifying accounts. $35 connection charge applies. See expired due effective Saturday reports.
Something amazing is happening at work. Innovative tools are helping people do better work. That's because CDW configuration specialists are multiplying productivity with Microsoft Windows 11 Pro Surface devices. Built-in security, flexibility, and simplified management with streamlined tasks so your team can get more done. Microsoft and CDW, we can things about them. Learn more at cdw.com/service.
Fall is football at the Owner's Box Sports Bar and Grill in Lakeland, Town Square. Monday through Friday, it's happy hour from 3 to 6. $1 off all draft beers, $5 off will drinks, $4.50 for house wine, and pretzels, mozzarella sticks, queso, $1 today. Friday night lights from 7 o'clock. Dine in and buy grill Wednesday, 5 Raiders games for free. I'll watch college football and every pro game. All at the Owner's Box Sports Bar and Grill in Lakeland. Highway 70, fall is football.
Sports 56 traffic.
Good afternoon. A couple of EMS calls out here the last 15, 20 minutes. Still moving right now. I-40 over here at Chelsea, in and out of the Midtown area. Now, that's only going to get busier probably the next 15, 20 minutes. Coming 240 southbound at South Parkway down to Norris. As you continue south of Memphis, that's been in pretty good shape, but a little bit of radar down certain sections of I-55 in DeSoto County within the last hour or so, especially that southern portion. Weimer's Jewelry, 7525 Highway 64 is your full service family-owned jewelry store here in Memphis. I'm Commander Chuck with your on-time traffic.
Broadcasting from the Family Leisure Studios, we are Sports 56, WHBQ Memphis, and W253DF Memphis. Joining Brian and Brett now on Sportstime is National College Football writer for CBS Sports, Memphis native and Tennessee grad, who you can find on Twitter X at David W. Cobb. It's David Cobb.
David Cobb joins us now from CBS Sports. Talk some college basketball and some college football. David, it's been a while since we've talked with you. How's everything going? We know you have a baby girl at the house now. How's parenting treating you?
Yeah, it's quite a change, guys. Happy New Year. The last time we talked on these airwaves, I was a father-to-be, and now I am a father. So lots been happening around here, but it's been good. We got a healthy baby girl, and I had 6 weeks off of work, which, let me tell you, that's the longest I have gone without writing in quite some time. So to get thrown back into the fire during the college football playoff quarterfinals, I was kind of I was swimming upstream a little bit. It was tough because I had to live blog the wild Texas-Arizona State game and to have something ready to go on that outcome right at the buzzer, and that was tough. But no, we're doing great, man. I appreciate you guys giving me a few weeks to kind of catch my breath and figure things out a little bit. But yeah, it's been fun. It's been great.
How's Sarah? How's your baby Rose?
She's doing well. We had a couple of just sort of normal, typical newborn things to navigate in terms of she had an infection. We had to get her on antibiotics. We're doing all this for the first time, so it's all nerve-wracking. We don't know anything really. So there's only so much you can do to prepare for what parenthood throws at you. But Mom is doing great as well. She's still got some time off, which is fantastic. And so they're both doing great. And knock on wood, guys, I'm actually getting a pretty decent amount of sleep.
All right.
So that's been tremendous. But let me tell you, Rosie is watching a lot of basketball, a lot of football with me.
Good.
So I don't know if that's going to make her hate sports when she's older. I'm kind of hoping she loves sports. But I'm cognizant of the fact that my days of getting to control the remote, they're limited because here in a year or so it's going to be a Bluey and
right.
I don't even know what all the kids are watching these days, but I guess I'm going to find out. So I'm enjoying these days of having the remote in my control because I know they're not going to last.
Now, how are the real experts, the grandparents?
My mom's been a tremendous help. She's come already a couple times to visit. Sarah's parents were here during the delivery process, so that was great to have their support. So we've already been crisscrossing the state seeing grandparents. We're kind of centrally located in the middle of the state at the moment, which is great because our parents are on either side. So yeah, it's been so we're the youngest. We're each the youngest. Sarah and I are. And so our grandparents or our parents have done the grandparent thing, So they're pros at it, and they know what to do,
experts,
how to help and stuff. So it's been good.
That's awesome.
And it's got to be fun for you to witness perfectly adjusted adults turn into just absolute putty around a little baby.
Right. Doesn't it make you feel like, I know for me, it's made me feel so appreciative for my parents, now being on the other side of it, and I haven't even experienced the half of it yet in terms of all the things that, I probably put my parents through, and we're just getting started, and I'm already like, wow. Really a big shout out to mom and dad, because they navigated me not just through infancy, but through all these challenges that I'm sure Rosie is about to put me through. My parents navigated me through those and still love me. So it changes your perspective for sure. But it's also kind of hard to have that perspective, because in the moment, like right now, you're just so focused on getting to the next feeding, getting to the next nap, getting to bedtime, making sure the diaper's changed. Like you're so in the weeds of it all that it's hard to even see. It's like Nick Saban after he wins a national championship. He's worried about the recruiting class.
Back to the grind.
That's right.
That's how it feels. So it's like having this conversation.
No days
with you
off.
guys.
That's right.
Yeah, right. But when you guys ask me about it, it helps me see that perspective a little bit and snap out of the day-to-day stuff, which I think is important. So,
Dave,
thanks for asking.
You kind of identified the basketball in the state of Tennessee pretty well. West Tennessee, East Tennessee, Memphis Tigers, and Tennessee Vols.
Yeah, and how about them Vanderbilt Commodores looking strong too? I mean, I was thinking about that today. It's crazy. There's some good ball being played in the state right now. I mean, Tennessee 5 weeks in a row now at number one. I mean, are we talking about Tennessee basketball enough? It almost feels like within that fan base there was so much buzz about a baseball national championship and a college football playoff run that a number one ranked basketball team is kind of flying under the radar. And then obviously with Memphis, it's been proven now. This is no fluke. Like the computers were out on Memphis, and your Ken Palms and your Bart Torviks and all these, they've been trying to tell you that Memphis isn't good, but no, Memphis keeps putting the product out there that says they are in fact pretty good. So I'm loving it right now. It's been fun kind of being just more of a viewer these last 5 or 6 weeks, because there's been some really good ball being played by both those schools to really watch and dive into.
Who's overachieved between the two? Tennessee to get to number one and stay there 5 weeks and be the lone remaining undefeated, or Penny Hardaway to be at 12-3.
Oh man, you're gonna make me pick between the Tigers and the Vols. In some ways, it's both. I might actually say Memphis, because of the caliber of the non-conference schedule. It was, I think one of the clearly not. I know it was absolutely one of the toughest non-conference schedules in the country. If not,
I had them 8-5, non.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, right. And so they come out of it at 10-3, and then now 2-0 in the conference. So it's incredible. The victory over UConn is going to continue to age well. UConn is not maybe as great as they were the last 2 seasons, but boy, they are going to be right there in the hunt for the Big East title. They're going to be right there as a 3 or a 4 seed at the worst, probably, for the NCAA tournament. The Arkansas State loss is the one from Memphis that you kind of scratch your head with. But I'll say this about Tennessee. What's so impressive to me about how Tennessee has reached and sustained the number one ranking is the fact that they had to replace Dalton Connect. Mm-hmm. I mean, the SEC Player of the Year. Arguably the greatest player one of the top 5 greatest players to ever wear the Tennessee uniform in basketball. You got to replace that guy, not to mention guys like Santiago Vescovi and Josiah Jordan-James, who were part of that program for 5 years. Then you lose your all-SEC center, Jonas Adu, to Arkansas within the conference as a transfer. Well, you know what? They actually went out and upgraded at center because Adu kind of got smacked around on Saturday when Arkansas came to Thompson-Boling Arena. Tennessee won the offensive rebounding battle 24-9 with an Ohio State transfer down there, Felix Okpara in the paint. And then, obviously, Chaz Lanier. Nobody can replace Dalton Connect. But Chaz Lanier has really come close to doing it in a way that is just incredible. He's the best three-point shooter in the SEC and absolutely one of the best in college basketball, right there with guys like Kobe Brea and, heck, Tyrese Hunter, I guess, for Memphis, who's just been unreal from beyond the arc as well. So they're both impressive. Tennessee and Memphis, what they've done in basketball is both really impressive. Impressive in different ways. But really, I mean, hard to pick between the two of them. They both overachieved.
Yeah.
Boy, could we get that lucky to have a game in the NCAA tournament between them.
Oh, gosh, don't even tease me. It would be great. I love the fact that the women's teams played this year. They did it at the Forum. Tennessee came into town and played Memphis. I wish they would get back to it. I get it because, Penny Hardaway was pretty rude and insulting towards Rick Barnes early in his tenure. But I think I know Penny's grown up a lot. He's acknowledged that he's matured a lot as a coach. I think he has a new perspective on the old school coaches like the Rick Barneses of the world. Now that Penny's in year 7, he's talked a lot, this season about what he didn't know when he was first starting out. So, maybe they could mend that fence, right? That would be great. I'd love it if Tennessee and Memphis would play again in basketball. Obviously, it's not going to happen this year unless the NCAA tournament brings that about, which, oh, my goodness. I mean, I can't imagine, Brett. It would be fantastic.
Yeah, it would be insane. Outside of Memphis and Tennessee, what is the biggest story right now in college basketball?
Well, it's the SEC's dominance, and right now we're seeing all this discussion about how the SEC is not what it was in football, and how the rest of the country is catching up to the SEC on the gridiron. Well, okay, maybe we can have that conversation if you want, but if they're losing any ground in football, they're sure making up for it in basketball right now. That to me is probably the biggest story, and it's not just the fact that you got your Auburns, your Tennessees, your Alabamas there, Kentucky's playing really well in year 1 under Mark Pope. For sure, those are really interesting stories, but it's the depth of the league and the fact that an Ole Miss, a Mississippi State, even a Georgia this year has kind of turned the corner and starting to look legit. And so it's the depth of the league and the fact that it's, maybe 10 or 11 teams from the conference that could make the NCAA tournament. So that's been pretty impressive to see the SEC put that sort of product out there during the non-conference. And now we get to all sit back and watch as they beat up on each other a little bit. It's going to be a fun race in the SEC.
Yeah, it is.
David, for me, and I said earlier, I'm not changing my Tiger expectations from preseason. I'm going to stay at just get to the NCAA tournament. I don't think it would be fair now with this good start, and it looks like it would be favorable in conference to move that bar to Penny Hardaway. You got to go to the Elite Eight or bust. I don't think it would be fair to do him like that. So I'm going to keep it at just get to the tournament. And if it's better than that, then great. If it's not, then that's how it falls out. For the SEC in basketball, I don't need to hear about a bunch of teams in the tournament. I don't need to hear about a bunch of 7, 8, 9 seeds. It's time to cut nets down, and the SEC hadn't done that since John Calipari in Kentucky in 2012.
Yeah, it's a great point, and the Big Ten's got a long title drought as well. The Big East and the Big 12 have kind of run the sport come March, and the ACC obviously gets its 4 or 5 teams in, and then those teams typically tend to make a deep run too. So it's interesting, those conference dynamics, because you get a bunch of teams in, but then they don't do anything. Who cares, right? So it's Duke's going to be right there. The ACC's having a terrible season, but you're still going to have to deal with the Blue Devils when it's all said and done. The Big 12 might be taking a back seat to the SEC this season, but Bill Self in Kansas, they're not going anywhere. Iowa State, Houston, all teams that could be there in the mix as well. So, it is definitely about what you do in March. And you look at the top teams there from the SEC, and you look at those coaches. There's reason to doubt. Auburn and Bruce Pearl, he's been to one Final Four, never been farther. Tennessee and Rick Barnes, he went to one Final Four at Texas. Tennessee's never even been to a Final Four. You look at Todd Golden in Florida. One, he's under investigation for Title IX issues at Florida. They played a soft schedule, so there's still questions there. Alabama, Nate Oates, they had their breakthrough last season, but he's never coached in a national championship game. Alabama's never played for a national championship. So all these programs and coaches in the SEC, there are questions. I mean, Mark Pope of Kentucky still never coached in an NCAA tournament game, and that was a big knock on him from the Kentucky fans when they first hired him. Obviously, he's looking great so far, but pretty much every one of these programs from the SEC is got something to prove come the NCAA tournament. So, these next couple of months are going to be a lot of fun. There's going to be some teams and coaches who emerge as really hot picks. But boy, once the NCAA tournament starts, you're going to be looking at the bracket and thinking, do I really, really believe in these SEC programs, or am I going to fall back on, you know what, I think I trust in Kelvin Sampson in Houston, or I trust in that Duke Blue Devils brand a little bit more than I trust in some of these more unproven SEC brands.
Yeah, well, you mentioned Kentucky and Florida. That was a really fun game to kind of start the basketball day on Saturday. In most games like that, Florida gets a win when you put up 100 points, but not against Kentucky. The fifth time this season Kentucky has scored 100 or more points. They finished with 106 in that game. Brett and I were talking about it earlier. It felt like after last season that both Kentucky and John Calipari both might have needed a change of scenery, and Kentucky certainly getting that with what Mark Pope is bringing in this team because they like to put up points.
Yeah, absolutely. I love watching Kentucky under Mark Pope. It's such a breath of fresh air. They play so much better basketball now than they did under John Calipari. And I watched Kentucky, and then I watched John Calipari back to back on Saturday.
Yeah.
Boy, Kentucky looks so much better
Night and day.
than Arkansas did under John Calipari. It was, like you said, night and day. I mean, yeah, sure, Arkansas was at Thompson Bowling Arena playing against the number one team in the country, but obviously Florida going into Rupp Arena had not lost, and Kentucky puts up 106 on them. So I love watching Kentucky. I think they're the perfect example of a team where the sum of the parts is greater than the whole, because there's not a first-team All-American. There's not a lottery pick on that Kentucky roster, but there's 8 or 9 veteran quality players who all have very unique skill sets and that all complement each other well. And so that makes them really fun to watch because you got Kobe Brea knocking down, 6 threes or whatever, and then you got Amari Williams, just a menace down there defensively in the paint. You got Lamont Butler, a really bulldog of a point guard who leads the defense. So everybody on that Kentucky roster has a role and plays it really well. And so I think from that standpoint, Mark Pope did an awesome job of putting that team together because those pieces all complement each other so well. And it's got to be refreshing as a Kentucky fan to see quality, well-coached basketball again. It's not just hey, we got the most talent, we're going to roll the ball out there and hope it works, right? Because that's always kind of been what Calipari is. And I think college basketball in this era requires better on-court coaching. It's not just who can collect the most talent. Talent helps, sure, absolutely. But as we're seeing with Arkansas, yeah, sure, okay, you got Carter Knox and Boogie Fland and Adu Thiero, great. But, the basketball, the product itself, it leaves a lot to be desired. And so, I think Kentucky is winning that breakup for sure. And that was easy to see even in November, but it's only become more apparent now.
Mm-hmm.
David, I warned most of the football season that I thought the SEC was really, really good, but that it was not vintage. It was not anywhere near to what a lot of us had seen in the last few years and over the course of most of the 21st century, and it has played out. But also what I have said for a long, long time, the biggest, fairest knock on the SEC is this. It's not perfect. It doesn't bat 1,000, but it's expected to because we raised that bar. We raised those expectations for the SEC. It's 8-6 in the bowl season. It's got a team in the Final Four, and that's bad?
Yeah, well, I think relative to the expectations nationally, it's a little underwhelming. I'm not going to say it was bad, but you can see all along, Brad, this year, the lack of a totally dominant team out of the SEC. Not only did Georgia have to play a more difficult schedule, but I think anybody who watched a lot of Georgia games, certainly you saw it up close and personal with what Ole Miss did to Georgia, that Georgia just wasn't that dominant force that it had been, for the last several years under Kirby Smart. And then you had Texas, which had a great record but played a light schedule. LSU couldn't get it on the rails. Alabama slipped and fell under, its first year under Kalen DeBoer. So you go case by case, and you can kind of see how it was on the whole, a weaker sort of year for the league. There wasn't that dominant type of team. And so I think that's the difference between the Big Ten and the SEC is that the scheduling imbalances worked out for the Big Ten to where things were kind of paved perfectly for an Indiana, Penn State to go out there and put up these gaudy records, and then Ohio State kind of backs into the playoff, but it worked out perfectly for them that this was the year it expanded because in years past, Ohio State would have been left out, but they got the most talented roster in the country. They lose 2 games, they still find a way in. So, you look at the SEC, I don't think you can argue the fact that it turns out to be a little bit of a down season. You've got a 12-team playoff now. You expect the SEC to have at least 3, and you expect them to have a team in the national title. And right now, barring an upset, that's not going to happen. And even if Texas beats Ohio State, the SEC kind of only gets partial credit because a year ago Texas was in the Big 12, and so you can claim them now; they're in the conference. But even if Texas does make the national title game, I still feel like there's a little bit of a brand crisis there that it's Texas and not one of your traditional teams.
And I think the common denominator for the slippage is this. And I thought it would be a strength. Sitting at SEC Media Day, I thought it would be one of the real assets of the league. I thought quarterback play around the SEC this year was really suspect.
Yeah, it was okay, but it wasn't great. You look at Tennessee and Nico Iamaleava. He was touted as a Heisman Trophy frontrunner going into the season, and he didn't finish anywhere close. He wasn't even contended to be an all-SEC quarterback. He was good, but he wasn't great, and that kind of ended up being the case around the conference. Quinn Ewers ended up getting banged up a little bit, so his stats were down, and Arch Manning came in there and played a little bit for him. And, Carson Beck took a major step backwards. Garrett Nussmeier struggled with interceptions all year long. So Jalen Milroe just had some just head-scratching moments of horrible turnovers that really helped kind of wreck Alabama's season. The list goes on. It was not a pretty year for quarterbacks in the SEC. Really not a banner year for quarterbacks anywhere in college football, though. Look at this playoff. It's Riley Leonard and Drew Aller in one game, and then Quinn Ewers and Will Howard in the other. Come on. Will Howard's been playing lights out in a playoff, but he wasn't lights out during the regular season. And that was reflected in the Heisman Trophy voting, where you had Travis Hunter and Ashton Jancy as your leading vote getters there. So, it was not a great year for quarterback play, and I think that's why you're seeing a lot of Tennessee Titans fans saying, you know what, we should probably trade the number one pick because I don't know that our next great quarterback is coming from this draft class, and I feel like that's kind of the way a lot of people are viewing the draft right now. It's like, well, I guess Cam Ward or Shedeur Sanders could be good, but not typically the guys that you would want to spend a number one overall pick on.
Ooh, I love this. Okay, David, you're the GM for the Tennessee Titans. You've been told by the owner you have to pick a quarterback at the number one pick. Who are you taking?
Call me crazy, guys, but I'm going with Shedeur Sanders. I know he doesn't have the cannon. It's not a Josh Allen type of arm. It's not a Joe Milton type of arm, but you watch him play the last couple of years with a pretty suspect offensive line. He is so accurate. He almost always makes the right read. He very, very rarely gets intercepted. I think he sees the field and processes the game at a really, really high level. Kind of like your quintessential coach's son, like you would expect from a guy who grew up living and breathing the game and being exposed to the game at a high level, by his dad. So, yeah, I like Shedeur. I know he's not going to put that 60-yard, kind of go route on you right on the money, right? Because he doesn't have that elite arm strength. Maybe that deep out route isn't there for him as much as you would like for a typical NFL quarterback. But I think Shedeur Sanders is really good.
Do you compare him at all to Jaden Daniels?
I think Jaden Daniels is faster as a runner. I'd take Jaden Daniels over Shedeur Sanders. But, yeah, how can you not look at what Jaden Daniels did as a rookie this year and not try to find that comparison? I think Cam Ward's got a little bit of that Jaden Daniels in him too, though, with the elusivity and the wiggle to his game. He's a little bit more dangerous in terms of being turnover prone and playing the hero ball and stuff. And Jaden Daniels just sort of has a way of doing that while also not putting the football at risk, which is really, really impressive.
And in last year, 2023 football season, Bryant, you'll remember that Monday I came in here after Ole Miss upset LSU, and I said, I've seen Superman.
Sure did.
Yeah.
Sure
Yeah,
did.
I don't know that there is. I don't know that there's another Jaden Daniels out there, and that was the difference in college football this year, right? Because last year, he was so spectacular. We just didn't have a quarterback quite at that level this year. Ward and Sanders were fantastic, but it kind of feels like after that, there was a pretty big drop off, and that's reflected in this college football playoff. I'll say this though, Drew Aller and Will Howard, both those guys can make themselves a lot of money with how they perform in this playoff, and Quinn Ewers too. I feel like Quinn Ewers has kind of been the same guy all along during college, but we're seeing a version of Drew Aller and Will Howard these last couple of weeks with some of the throws that they've made, where it's like, okay, I'm starting to see you as more of an NFL quarterback now than maybe we did previously.
Yeah. Last thing for you, next week when we talk to you, we'll be previewing the national championship game. Who will we be talking about in that national championship game?
Yeah, I think it's going to be Ohio State and Penn State, a Big Ten rematch. I'm sure everyone around here will be real stoked for that. But look at Notre Dame and the way they beat Georgia. It's super impressive, the fact that Marcus Freeman has taken over and taken the program farther than Brian Kelly ever did. So, like, hats off to Notre Dame. But at the same time, it took a couple of fairly lucky and timely fumbles from Georgia, and it took a 98-yard kickoff return, plus a quarterback injury to Georgia for Notre Dame to win that game. So I think when you look at Penn State and their ability to run the football and be creative offensively under a first-year coordinator, Andy Kotelnicki, I think Penn State beats Notre Dame. And then, look at Ohio State and the way they're playing. I can't, in good faith, take Texas to beat Ohio State right now. So, yeah, I think we get a rematch, Buckeyes and Nittany Lions.
Wow, all Big Ten affair in the national championship game. That's David Cobb's prediction. David, so glad you're back with us. Enjoy this week, and we'll talk to you again next Monday.
Okay, guys, good to talk to you.
Thanks, David.
Thank you, David. David Cobb with us from CBS Sports talking college football and college basketball. All right, Bryant, look, so if it's even with this Final Four and with the finals that it could be if David's right, as a college football fan first, and I promise you I am a college football fan first, and then I guess next would be SEC, Ole Miss, SEC, etc., this area. Come on now, Penn State and Ohio State in the finals. We got to enjoy that. That screams college football. Okay, maybe it doesn't scream college football in this time zone and in our backyard, but we know the history of both of those. And before Thursday night's game, we're going to do the Big Four, and we'll do it Friday. We'll do Big Four for all these. I'm telling you, it's almost impossible to do that for all these teams in it. I know Texas is new to the SEC, but Texas, Ohio State, Notre Dame, Penn State, that's college football.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Those are some of the biggest brands of college football. And so, yeah, I think. So
we don't get our way every year.
No.
Tough luck. Grow up.
Yeah, it's one of those things where, college football is so big. It is a national sport. It's not one of these regional sports. But when you kind of break it down, it is regionalized in terms of kind of where you're at kind of dictates how you view it. And so certainly here, surrounded by all of these SEC schools, yeah, we watch a lot more SEC than we watch Big Ten or really any other conference. And so, yeah, we have, maybe a little more in with them. But when you have these type of teams fighting it out, yeah, just give me good games, and I don't care who's
I want
in
it good across the country, and SEC will be fine.
No, yeah, SEC will definitely be fine, but it will be weird if that is the matchup, Ohio State and Penn State. But I'm excited. First game on Thursday night, then Friday night, and then we'll have it set for the first national championship game in the 12-team era for the college football playoffs. We need to get to another break, and when we come back, it'll be time to look back for our Sissy's Log Cabin look back at the weekend in the SEC.
I'm Gary York. I'm the service director of Lexus in Memphis. Our service department wants to be more than just a place where you get your oil changed. We do glass repair, windshield replacement, recalibration of your camera and sonar systems, even wheel repair, tire replacement, all the things you would expect from a luxury automotive dealer. Please check out our website. You can schedule your appointment, check out our specials, hours of operation, or if you'd like to do it in person, please reach out to one of our associates at 901-271-5199.
With Progressive's Name Your Price tool, you get coverage options based on how much you want to pay for car insurance. And then you decide how to spend the rest of your money, because you're in charge. Right now, you're going to pay for groceries. But you decide what groceries. Just keep in mind you're running out of dishwashing soap. But you decide if you're going to buy that soap. Just those dishes won't clean themselves, will they? Remember, with Progressive's Name Your Price tool, we'll help you find coverage at a fair price.
Ben, you're in charge. There's a double entry for time available all states. Special coverage match limited by state law.
Hungry for that delicious smash burger flavor? Dyer's Cafe is the original smash burger since 1912 and still smashing burgers in Collier, historic Town Square. Come out for their lunch specials Monday through Friday, 11 to 2. Ask about their world-famous split dog and authentic Chicago or New York dog. Try the leaner side of Dyer's with a grilled chicken sandwich or freshly made salad. Also serving lakes, Delta-raised catfish, Pasquale's tamales, and a customer favorite hand-breaded onion rings. Dyer's, serving world-famous burgers, dogs, and shakes in Collier's historic Town Square.
Sports 56 traffic.
Good afternoon. Despite a couple of minor accidents out here the last 15-20 minutes, it's really trying to build even more so than it was last week at this time on 240 East from Mill Branch out to 385 as you get on to Bill Morris Parkway. That still looks pretty good headed on out towards Collierville. Now, there has been a little bit of radar within the last hour. I-40 as you work your way west of West Memphis towards Forest City there through that stretch of Arkansas. Hey, at the Humane Society of Memphis Shelby County, you can adopt a pet, change a life. For more information on the pets that are available for adoption, check out their website at memphisHumane.org. I'm Commander Chuck with your on-time traffic.
Five, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Time for a look back at the weekend in the SEC. Brought to you by Sissy's Log Cabin, the official jeweler of the Memphis Grizzlies with 9,000 square foot in Laurelwood. Let's go inside the SEC with Bryant and Brett.
Chad Kelly in the gun formation. 3rd and inches for Ole Miss.
Carlton will kick it. It is on the way, and it is up.
Buck Bellew looking at it, going to pitch it to Herschel Walker, try to get him outside. He's going to get 5.
The snap is high. Kelly grabs it, wants to throw, fires it up in the air. Treadwell can't get it.
It is good! Oh, my!
Get a deflection is caught! Deflection is caught! And down the sidelines is Adebayo. He's to the end zone. He's in there. Touchdown, Ole Miss.
He's got 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40. He needs a block. There goes Herschel. There goes Herschel.
And you can wrap this one in maroon and white, my friends.
Arkansas is headed to Atlanta.
The national champion is clad in big orange.
Brian, I did do 2 things at the Gator Bowl. I went down to the corner, went to the spot on the field where the drive started for Buck Bellew. A lot of people don't realize before the great Larry Munson call, he said on the air like 91 yards of green Gator Bowl grass in front of the Georgia Bulldogs right before that series. That was Lindsey Scott's only touchdown catch of that year, too. So I went to the spot where the drive started, went to the corner where he scored, and also went to the spot on the field where Woody Hayes punched the player.
Oh, wow. So you knocked it all out.
Yeah. Now, Gator Bowl looks a lot different now than it did then. This is really the Sissy's Log Cabin look back at the week in the SEC, and it was last week, Music City Bowl, Mizzou 27-24 over Iowa, 10-3 for Mizzou, 21-5 the last 2 years for Eli Drinkwitz. Brady Cook passed for 287 and 2 touchdowns, rushed for 54 yards. 8th 10-win season in Mizzou football history. Mizzou opens 2025 against New Mexico.
There you go, Brad. Getting confused with the years.
It's
the start of the new year for you. No, I mean, good win for Missouri. You know, it's always going to be a tough game when you play Iowa with how physical they are. But, you know, Missouri and Brady Cook, to go out like that, you mentioned it, 287 yards, 2 touchdowns, really couldn't run the ball, so did a lot through the air, but a good win for Missouri.
Kind of all year. They really couldn't run it that well all year, and a lot of it fell to Brady Cook with a lot of quarterback powers when they would run, similar to Jackson Dart and Ole Miss. ReliaQuest Bowl, Michigan, 19-13 over Bama. Michigan started 2024 by beating Bama in Pasadena and ended 2024 by beating Bama in the bowl game. The January 1st win was followed by the Coach Nick Saban retirement. The December 31st win marked the end of any honeymoon for Kalen DeBoer. It's over. 9-4. Kalen DeBoer ending 16 straight double-digit win seasons for Alabama. Jalen Milroe, I thought, got a little bit worse all year under Kalen DeBoer. Sacked 5 times, 3 turnovers for Milroe. Only 68 yards rushing for Bama. 0 for 3 on 4th down. Bama, they opened 20-25 at Florida State.
Ooh, yeah, wow, that would be fun. No, it was a rough game for Alabama, against a Michigan team that, what a better way for Michigan to end the season after it was kind of a really, underperforming year.
Beat Ohio State and Alabama.
25. Yeah, and then you end it with wins over your arch rival and over Alabama. They finish 8-5, so a good year for them. But the way this game started, 3 turnovers in the first quarter for Alabama. You had that big monsoon that rolled through and was out pretty quick. But Jalen Milroe, not a great season for him. Certainly not a great game for him against Michigan. But now he's declared for the NFL draft, so it'll be a new era for Alabama, and that might not be the worst thing. Jalen Milroe, a really good quarterback, but he was not, he was there before they made that. No, he wasn't Michael Penix, and he is a guy that kind of got in that mix of, one coach out, a new coach in, and so it might not be the worst of things to have a new quarterback with that new coaching staff.
Citrus Bowl, Illinois 21-17 over South Carolina. Brett Bielema didn't win a lot when he was in the SEC, but he beat the Gamecocks in Orlando. Shane Beamer spent the last month telling everybody that they were the best team in the country and could beat anybody, but they couldn't beat Big Bert in the bowl game. And then Beamer wanted to fight in the bowl game. Like he's going to whip Brett Bielema. Come on.
Yeah, that was maybe one of the crazier moments of the entire bowl season was the coaches in this game trying to get into it. But now, the game on the field, was fun to watch. Luke Altmaier, who, former SEC quarterback at Ole Miss, he's been really good for Illinois and had a good game for them. Lenore Sellers, he's going to be one of those quarterbacks it feels like we're going to talk about all offseason going into next year of what he could be with another offseason under his belt at South Carolina. That could be a team to look out for next year.
South Carolina, they opened 20-25 in Atlanta in the Chick-fil-A Classic against Virginia Tech. Texas Bowl, LSU 44-31 over Baylor. 304 passing for Garrett Nussmeier, and he'll be right there in those summertime rankings as best quarterbacks in the SEC along with Lenore Sellers. They will be the top 2 probably. 9-4 for Brian Kelly. Left Notre Dame because he didn't think he could win one there. Now they're in the Final 4. He hadn't been close to being in the top 4. Xavier Thomas, 95-yard touchdown run for LSU. LSU opens the season next year at the other Death Valley at Clemson.
Yeah, and this was a fun game. If you like teams throwing the ball around, this was the game for you. 749 passing yards combined between these two teams. LSU jumped out early, but then Baylor able to score a couple times in the second half, late in the second quarter as well. But, LSU, I think Garrett Nussmeier, it sounds like he's coming back next year, and you mentioned it. They'll be the top 2. Him and Lenore Sellers should be the top 2. But I really like watching Garrett Nussmeier at the quarterback position. I'm excited to get another year out of him.
College football playoff quarterfinals at the Peach Bowl. Texas 39-31 in overtime over Arizona State. And John Riggins Scatterboo. Boy, he had a game, didn't he? Did it all, except for play defense for Arizona State. Fun story, Quinn Ewers, he delivered his Texas football moment for now. In double overtime, Texas prevailed 1 play away from being eliminated. Texas, as we talked about earlier, now 13-2. That's a lot of football, but only 53 yards rushing for the Burnt Orange against Arizona State. 10 penalties, barely able to hang on and win, but they did. Semis against Ohio State. Up next in the Goodyear Cotton Bowl Friday night.
Yeah, this was the best game we've gotten out of the college football playoffs. 2 overtimes. It looked like early Texas was going to run away with this one. Arizona State really did not have many answers. They were able to get into the red zone, but just couldn't capitalize and get into the score touchdowns or even knock down field goals early. Quinn Ewers, he was really good. 322 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception, but Cam Scatterboo was the story of the game, running the ball, catching the ball, throwing the ball, a little bit of everything. There was the targeting call that ended up being a no call late in the game that has been met with a lot of controversy since the end of that game. terrific year for Arizona State. I mean, to go from being picked last in their conference to winning it and really being close to having an opportunity to get to the semifinals. Great year for them. Texas keeps on rolling, but it's kind of been the story of the year for them, not being able to get much on the ground. That caused problems once you get to the tougher competition in the semifinals.
Sugar Bowl had to be moved to the afternoon of January 2nd because of the terrorist attack in the early hours of the new year. And what an absolute nightmare the trip to New Orleans had to be for Kirby Smart. Never mind the game with his dad, legendary dad, his dad, Sonny, taking the fall, walking around, as I'm told, on New Year's Eve afternoon in the French Quarter, breaks a hip, taken to the hospital, complications. Then he passed away.
Yeah.
Everything kind of secondary, but the whole deal was awful. The terrorist attack, game postponed, and then the game itself. It was not a great performance by Georgia. They did just enough to lose to Marcus Freeman in Notre Dame. Riley Leonard only threw for 90 yards.
Yeah, I mean, it was a weird game. It was a defensive game early, and a lot of mistakes by both offenses. And it was a low scoring 3-3, and then Notre Dame breaks it open with under a minute of game time, end of the second quarter. They're able to get a field goal, force a fumble, score, and then come out of halftime and return the opening kickoff. So that completely changed the game. I mean, if that sequence doesn't happen, and I mean we could play this game for every single game ever played, but if that sequence doesn't happen, I mean you're talking about a much different ball game, and we might be talking about a Georgia win. But you didn't really know what to expect with Gunnar Stockton back there at quarterback making his first start, and he looked lost, especially early. And so a year that Georgia had high hopes, but obviously with injuries and other things, not able to even get to the semifinals.
Notre Dame and kickoff returns in the Sugar Bowl against SEC teams. Al Hunter did it in 1973 on New Year's Eve to ruin my New Year's Eve when he ran a kickoff back against Alabama. They got another one now next year for Georgia. They open in 2025 against Marshall. We know Notre Dame moves on. Gator Bowl played later on January 2nd. Ole Miss 52-20 over Duke. It was named the score, and it felt like it was going to be all week. Duke, without their good quarterback, they got the Tulane quarterback coming in, but they didn't have much at quarterback, and they were so very small, Brian. I mean, just the eye test to look and see their players at a team event. And I'm thinking, uh-oh. And then when you see them out there in uniforms and the speed, it was a pronounced difference. They were 9-3, and look at when you play teams in bowl games, you play kind of peer groups. You very rarely do you see one team that may be 10-2, and the other teams 6-6. You play against kind of like-minded teams. I think Duke actually finished higher in the ACC than Ole Miss ended up finishing in the SEC. It was Jackson Dart's night. 404, just a few yards shy of a Gator Bowl record. Good running the ball. Ulysses Bentley had 2 touchdowns, 7 receptions, 180 yards for Jordan Watkins, only 44 yards rushing for Duke. And ACC, go away, stick to basketball.
Yeah, I mean, you knew this game was going to be a lot of points with Ole Miss, so we knew throughout the season they were never afraid to score the ball and even run up scores, and certainly in this game, being the last game for a lot of these guys, it felt like they were going to put up a lot of points. I know what you said earlier about maybe sticking it to the ACC with what Wake Forest did. I didn't even think about that when the game was going on, but certainly even more of a reason there. But yeah, Jackson Dart was really good. I was seeing, even after that game, a lot of people that, cover the NFL draft and do NFL scouting and stuff like that on social media saying that, huge game for him. And a lot of people really like what he was able to show in that bowl game in his preparations for the draft.
Well, kind of like, that ink blot, that Rorschach test, you want to get Lane Kiffin fired up. Show him a picture of John Curry or the Wake Forest logo. In the bowls now, 43 played. Favorites won and covered 24 times, 24 and 19. Wow. So the dog was 19 and 24. The over hit 24 times out of 43. The underdog or the under landed 19 and 24. The team that won the rushing battle, 32-11.
Wow.
The team that won the passing battle, 20-23.
Wow. So, yeah, goes back to your thing. I mean,
What do you
you run the ball, and you can find a lot of success.
It's amazing how it always works out.
Yeah.
Sissy's Log Cabin, look back at the week in the SEC, that great location at 4542 Poplar, over 9,000 square foot store in Laurelwood with expanded lines for Rolex, Cartier, diamonds, and more. They bring the look back at the SEC every Monday, have all year at 4:30. Big supporter of Tigers Athletics and the official jeweler of the Memphis Grizzlies, official jeweler for the Grizzlies, and at FedEx Forum with the floor seat lounge since 1970 with all the great locations across the Mid-South. Unsurpassed value, exceptional service, expansive selection, and an extraordinary shopping experience because life's too short for ordinary jewelry.
Only one SEC team still standing. You mentioned it, Texas. And that's
Do
gonna be
you
a tough
feel
game
a
for
lot
Ohio
of
State.
vim and vigor and SEC loyalty for Texas from the traditional SEC?
Yeah.
From everybody likes to shout and chant SEC. Do you feel Texas getting that love?
No, it actually doesn't feel like that. It almost feels like there's no SEC teams left because you're not getting that. It just means more with Texas.
It's like at the big wheel reading, the adopted brother gets all the cash.
Yeah, that's a really good analogy. I like that.
Really?
I like that. Yeah.
He gets all the money,
Yeah.
huh?
Yeah, I like that. That's
Yeah.
good. That's really good. But yeah, Texas, I mean, they'll wave the SEC flag if they need to. If they, get there, maybe. Oh, that's what you need to do. You need to plant the SEC flag. If they, go out there and beat Ohio State, plant the SEC flag midfield.
Would they?
Then everybody, then they got everybody back. Everyone will be back if they do that. Really embracing the SEC. I don't think they'll do that though. I don't know if they'll even win. That's gonna be a tough game for them against Ohio State. Well, let's go ahead and get to another break, and when we come back, it'll be time for Big Number of the Day.
Join the voice of the Tigers, Dave Woloshin, for Wolo and Friends. Weekday mornings from 10 to 11 here on Sports 56 and 98.5 FM.
The Family Leisure floor model sale is happening right now through the end of January. Family Leisure has got to get rid of all the 2024 inventory because all the new 2025 items are starting to arrive. All floor models are up to 50% off. You want a cold plunge tub? They start at $49.99. Go the other route with a hot tub. Get $3,000 off with free steps and chemicals. Family Leisure has pool tables, arcades, ping pong, air hockey, even foosball tables from 20 to 60% off. Want beers here? Family Leisure has theaters selling up to 75% off. Plus, now's the time to start thinking about pool seats. You can buy it now, get on the installation schedule, and be ready before everyone else. Special financing is also available. Hey, if you want to get free delivery on any of these items, you just tell the family staff at Family Leisure that you heard this commercial. It's the floor model sale. Now, through the end of January, Family Leisure with 200 I-40. Family and fun come together.
I'm Sean Sewer with XMC Technologies, your local source for the best in office technology for over 30 years. We believe that being a technology partner means meeting our clients' needs as they change over time. That's why I'm happy to share that we are now Visual Edge IT. As cyber attacks continue to be a growing threat, our customers are asking for more cybersecurity and ransomware protection. For more information on how to protect your office, visit us at visualedgeit.com or call us locally 901-737-8910.
Hi, this is Troy Fiveash, owner of Fiveash Roofing. I have been told that my ads are all business and I should share some of my personality. Okay, I love tongue twisters, like the one about the terrific tasting toast by Taste Tester Toaster, or Big Black Bugs, Bleed Blue Blood, and of course Sally and her seashells. Or of course the ever-present I'm a Mother Pheasant Plucker, I Pluck Mother Pheasants. Okay, enough of that. If you want an honest, fair, reasonable roofing, siding, or gutter estimate, call Fiveash Roofing at 367-0050. That's exactly what you'll get. No empty promises, no high-pressure sales tactics, and no fast-talking salesman trying to convince you that today and only today is the best day for you to get a new roof. For the record, the best day to get a new roof is when you're ready for one. Fiveash Roofing, fair, honest, and ethical. 367-0050 or memphisroofer.com.
Fiveash Roofing, it's what we do. We're here for you.
Hungry for that delicious smash burger flavor? Diet the leaner side of tires with a grilled chicken sandwich or freshly made salad. Also serving lakes, Delta raised catfish, Pasquale's tamales, and a customer favorite hand-breaded onion ring. Tires, serving world-famous burgers, balls, and shakes. Carlin's Store Town Square.
Sportstime on Sports 56 and 95 once again. Brett Roserly and Ryan Davis.
Big Daddy.
Hello, Big Brand. It's a guy, he wants to be big, then he gets big, he doesn't want to be big anymore, then he gets small, but the suit's too big.
Big Daddy.
The big boy.
You're a big guy. I think she's trying to pull a fast one on Big Daddy.
The big number of the day.
My big number today is the number 11. We're just going to go straight into it because this is an insane number. I'm sure everyone has heard this number already, but I still have to bring it up. Mike Evans has been in the NFL 11 seasons, and after yesterday's game, he has now recorded over 1,000 receiving yards in all 11 years that he has played. He got a late reception yesterday afternoon that got him over 1,000 yards at 1,004 yards right now for the season, but just an incredible career so far for him. I mean, it's just crazy to look at the stats of a NFL receiver and see every single season they've played, and a guy that's played 11 seasons
straight
have
to Canton.
over 1,000 yards straight to Canton, no question about it. He has been terrific, and it was fun seeing him get that reception yesterday afternoon because everybody knew what it meant on that team, and so right after that catch, he was met with a lot of his teammates celebrating what he had accomplished.
Now, am I the big meanie that brings up this?
Yes, you are.
17 games for Mike Evans.
Yes, you are. Yes. I mean, that is a fair
And the
argument.
whole world knowing he's going to catch that little
Oh, yeah.
out route and get to the record. So in a few years, can Jerry Rice, would he be justified at an autograph show going full Mark Gastineau on him? Like Gastineau did on Brett Favre.
I think so.
Have you seen that video of?
Oh yeah. I mean, that is a crazy video.
Brett Favre had to diffuse that, or it was going to get ugly.
He did a pretty good job of diffusing it because that was pretty tense.
It was, and Gastineau looks like the maniac that he always was.
Yeah. Yes. Well, hey, you live up to the name, I guess.
To him.
No, it does not. But
my big number, I'm going to start the year really big. You ready?
All right, I'm here for it. Let's go.
$35.1 billion.
Whoa.
$35.1 billion. That's the Forbes magazine estimated net worth of Phil Knight, the founder and owner of Nike, 86 years young. As of 2023, he has donated over $1 billion to Oregon athletics for football and basketball. And what has it gotten him? Nothing. Zip. And another zip, a big dud against Ohio State in the Rose Bowl. I was prepared to maybe think we had missed the story all year of super team of Oregon.
Yeah.
They weren't that.
No. And you're right. I mean, it has not gotten him. What it has gotten him is flashy players that get preseason hype, but then, what do they do once the game starts? Yeah,
a lot of winning.
Relevant. Yes.
I mean, they've been sustained in the mix good in football now. 33 years under a lot of different coaches. Yep. They've had a Final Four with Dylan Brooks in college basketball. That's a lot of money to pay for no championships.
Yeah, I mean, hey, but I guess when you got the money like that, spend it, right?
Over $1 billion donated to Oregon.
I mean, man, those pockets run deep.
They do, and Dan Lanning had a good team.
He had a really good team.
Probably fortunate to have the regular season game at home.
Oh, extremely fortunate. I mean,
that probably would have been won at Columbus if it had been there.
Yeah, we were talking last week, in preparations for that game. And, I think either I said it or Landon said it I think people forget that game came down to Oregon hitting a field goal with a minute and a half, a minute 20 left in that game, certainly under 2 minutes left in that game to even go up. And so, that game was back and forth. They certainly got the benefit of playing that game at home.
Brian, the bowl season brings kind of something for everybody. If you want to like it, you can.
Yeah.
I know we were texting, and Christmas Eve, the Aloha Bowl was great.
Man, that was such a good game, and back and forth. You get all the overtimes. Mr. Hawaii over here, Landon, he was loving every minute of it.
I'm sorry, the Hawaii Bowl. It's not Aloha, it's Hawaii Bowl, right?
Hey, a good potential new name for it, though.
I do.
Well, it used to be Aloha Bowl.
Yeah, and then now the Hawaii Bowl. But
well, in Aloha Stadium, I believe.
Yeah, I think
it used to be at Aloha Stadium.
Yeah.
Now it's at
the Clarence T.C. Ching Complex.
That's right.
That's it.
I know like the back of my hand.
I think I like the Aloha Bowl better than the Hawaii Bowl. That's got a good ring to it.
We'll have to make an appeal.
Yeah, we'll have to do something. But no, that was a lot of fun. There was the game in Detroit. What was it? The Game Above Sports Bowl or whatever the name of that was that went 5 or 6 overtimes.
6 overtimes.
Yeah, so
Toledo 48-46.
There were some really fun bowl games, but kind of back to what you were saying at the beginning of the show with the playoffs. What do these bowl games even mean anymore?
I think the right after Christmas, like December 23rd, 24th, 25th, 26th, 27th, they will have a better marketplace than some of the older ones. The older ones are all hoping with expanded playoffs, and they go they get away from campus and incorporate more bowl games that they get that they get the step up to that.
Yeah, man.
That's what the Gator Bowl people were saying. They're getting ready to totally redo that stadium over 2 or 3 years, and they want to be in the mix for the Gator Bowl being that first weekend of 8 games when we go to 16.
Interesting. I don't think I've thought about it like that.
Yeah, because you would need more games if we got away from campus. And I fully admit that the campus games didn't do it for me, and most of that was because it wasn't on any of mine, down here. I concede that. I will tell people up front that's it. But I don't know if those games did it for me like I thought they were going to do.
Yeah, I enjoyed them. I don't know if I maybe enjoyed them as much as I thought I would, but they were fun. But definitely, they were all blowouts.
Games weren't great.
They weren't great games. They were all blowouts.
And here's my thing. The Big Ten waited forever, especially the Big Ten. They wanted those games on campus because they have convinced themselves the only reason of the SEC supremacy, power has been because of the warm weather or, even with the domes down here in our footprint of the country. Okay, go ahead and convince yourself of that. So if we're going to play up there, and they wanted snow, by golly, they wanted the game.
Boy, did they.
So why at Penn State and why at Ohio State before the game, why did we clear the snow?
That's a great question.
If that's what you want, if that's the way football's supposed to be, nobody plays football like that. No. They've never played a game. There ain't been that many snow games in the history of the Big Ten because it usually ends around Thanksgiving.
Exactly. And now
so why'd we clear all the snow off?
That's a great point because you're right. The whole week leading up to those games, the only conversation was, oh man, it's going to be snowing up here, and those Southern teams, they don't know how to play in the snow, Brett.
Yeah, and just silly.
No, yeah, it was.
Campus didn't do it for me.
Yeah, well, I'm curious. I think we've been talking about it, and I think a lot of people have been talking about it. There are definitely things that this committee is going to have to talk about and discuss, and there are things that are going to have to be changed. And so, we'll see what they decide to do, but I do think a lot of conversations over the offseason about what this playoff will look like moving forward. Well, we need to wrap up this hour and get to another break. When we come back, we're talking Grizzlies to Michael Cole, the Grizzlies beat writer over at the Commercial Appeal. He'll join us on the other side. The Grizzlies in action tonight against the Dallas Mavericks. We'll talk about all of that next on Sportstime.
sometimes I wish I had a gun.
Well, I'm armed, but before I bought one, I still went to Top Gun Academy to learn to protect myself without a gun.
How is that possible?
Top Gun's personal protection training. It's perfect if you want to protect yourself without firearms.
I don't know.
And it's perfect if you feel the need to carry a gun for self-defense, because the last thing you really want to do is shoot.
That is scary.
Not at Top Gun. It's very comfortable, and you learn to load, handle, and shoot a handgun safely. Protect yourself. Go to Top Gun Academy. They're at 2770 Winton Road.
Life insurance. Why are you putting it off? Can't afford it? Too much hassle? Think you don't need it? There's lots of excuses for putting off life insurance. But if you weren't there, who would pay the mortgage and other bills? With Ethos, you could be covered in 10 minutes and boom, family protected. Ethos, fast and easy online term life insurance. Up to $2 million in coverage with no medical exam. Some policies as low as $1 a day. Answer a few health questions and get your free quote at getethos.com. That's getethos.com.
Rick's Powder Coating for a beautiful finish every time. Rick's Powder Coating specializes in automotive, ornamental, residential, and industrial coating. With two conveyor lines and the largest match ovens in the Mid-South, Rick's can accommodate all of your powder coating needs. Locally owned and operated since 2002, Rick's Powder Coating will customize a beautiful finish just for you. Drop by or call to see how Rick's Powder Coating can bring color to your life. 901-367-2771 or rickspowdercoating.com.
Each and every Sunday morning at 11 to join Ottawa Presbyterian Church for worship. Ottawa is a PCUSA church downtown Memphis. Sports 56 traffic.
Over here on 40 East from Sycamore View Road all the way out past Germantown Parkway as that traffic builds on out into Fayette County. We've had a few wrecks out there in the last hour or so. It has increased also on 240 on to 385 Billmores Parkway. Pretty typical right now this time of the afternoon, headed out towards Collierville. Weimer's Jewelry serving the Memphis area for over 40 years. No matter what the occasion is, go by and see them. You'll save a lot of money by shopping local at Weimer's Jewelry on Highway 64. I'm Commander Chuck with your on-time traffic.
Sports 56, WHBQ Memphis, and W253DF Memphis with John Harden. Weekdays from 11 to 1. Now, back to Sports Time on Sports 56 and 98.5 FM. This hour brought to you by Jaguar Land Rover Love City. Once again,
You say you stand by your man. Tell me something I don't understand. You said you loved me, and that's a fact. And then you left me.
Welcome back into Sports Time. Bryant and Brett with you as we start our 5 o'clock hour. And joining us now to talk some Grizzlies, the Grizzlies beat writer over at the Commercial Appeal, DeMichael Cole, joins us now. The Grizzlies back in action tonight against the Mavericks at home, but they've been on a road trip, a long road trip, and they'll get back on another road trip after these two home games. But you look at these back-to-back games over the weekend, DeMichael, back-to-back losses with a lot of injuries on this team. What have you seen from this Grizzlies team on this recent road stretch and especially these last two games?
I mean, you know, the injuries have kind of piled up on them in a way, but at the same time, you know, I was talking to the guys after the Golden State game, and, you know, the sense that I got is a lot of them are just ready to get back. And it didn't show in their play. Like, I thought against Golden State they competed, you know, decently well. But at the same time, you know, there's just a mental part of this too, where you know, guys have been on the road for 10 days. It's the longest road trip the Grizzlies have been on this season. Sacramento's just playing, you know, as people like to say, with its head on fire right now, right? You got a new coach, who Doug Christie's preaching the defensive end. He's coming there, he's putting his own touch on things. So they're playing guys like Keon Ellis more, like. There were nights Keon Ellis were getting DMPs, and you can make an argument that he was one of the most valuable King players in that game against Memphis. So he's put his own touch on things, and that was a tough one. But I think, you know, just getting back home will do this team some good. But defensively, they've had some you know, they've fallen off a little bit in this last week, and I talked to Taylor Jenkins about it. And it doesn't seem a big concern, because in the Golden State game, I know a lot of people were kind of disappointed with all the three-point looks that the Grizzlies gave up. 23 made three-pointers from Golden State, over 50% shooting from three-point range. But at the same time, they held Golden State to under 40 points in the paint, which is what the Grizzlies pride themselves on. And most nights teams aren't going to shoot 55% from three-point range in that case. So I don't think, they were too upset about the way that went, especially with the way that Golden State made some of those three-pointers. But at the same time, the defense hasn't been as good, and it was a 10-day road trip. So you get towards the end of the road trip, you start to get that feeling like let's get up out of here.
DeMichael, on the floor, what's the biggest concern? Is it the turnovers? I know off the floor it's got to be the injuries, but, boy, they're racking up the turnovers.
They are. You know what? I'm going to say yes. And I'll say yes because I feel like, from my perspective, that sometimes they can be really dismissive about the turnovers. And the reason is because it's this style of play. They're playing up and down. And a lot of times I ask the guys about turnovers, and they'll say things like, we're playing fast, so the turnovers will come with it. Like, it's one thing when John says, like, talking to John probably about 3 weeks ago, 2-3 weeks ago, and he was basically saying that, with my style of play, with some of the passes that I tried to make, there will be turnovers from time to time. And it makes sense, but overall, you had this game, Desmond Bain had 8 turnovers. There have been other games. I know Zach Edey's had a few games where he's had multiple turnovers. 3 seconds in the key, guys ripping the ball from him when he's in the paint. Scottie Pippen Jr. has had his share of turnover problems at times. Jaren, tends to get tunnel vision from time to time instead of, when doubles come, instead of making the right pass, he'll either try to score through the double or get a charge or some type of turnover comes out of that. So some of it is just, I think guys just have to be better. They got to be stronger with the ball. They got to be more aware, offensively aware to go with the ball. It's a real problem. I think Taylor Jenkins was the person, he said it's a huge issue for us. But even after the Golden State game, when he said that, I asked a couple of other guys, and they were just saying, it's the style we play. It's the offense. Like, some turnovers are going to come with it. And quite frankly, I think if that's kind of going to be the mentality, at some point that's going to have to change to this is a problem. Or like Taylor Jenkins said, this is a huge issue.
Is it correctable? And if you correct it, do you lose some of your newfound identity of getting the ball off the glass and going?
I think it's correctable, but with the way that the roster, like, for example, it's not that much correctable when Ja's not playing, for example. Like, it's correctable, but you have to, schematically right now, the Grizzlies pride themselves on everybody touching the basketball, right? That's cool because you get a lot of easy looks and whatnot. But at the same time, when everyone's touching the basketball, sometimes guys who shouldn't be touching the basketball that much are becoming playmakers. And that can, when it works, it looks good. But when it doesn't work, you have guys who should be not touching the basketball a lot, getting 3, 4, 5 turnovers in a game. So, it's kind of a double-edged sword there. But at the same time, I feel like it is correctable. It is something they can emphasize more going down the stretch of the season.
Friday night against Sacramento, a really fun story. Jalen Wells going back home. He had a 30-point game. I know you were there. I know he had a lot of family and friends in attendance for that game. What was that like, seeing him be able to have that type of performance in front of so many loved ones?
Oh, man, it was dope. It was dope. I was talking to his people before the game, and everyone was just so excited to see him there. Like, they were there early, and it was so many people. Like, I think I said it was an estimate of around 200, but, wow. His mom handled all the post-game passes and things like that. I think he had 100-plus people, close to 150 people, and that was pretty much the most they could do. Like, they couldn't do more. And I know his mom handled it. His dad was like, look, she's got it. And then, Jalen was like, she's got it. I can't deal with that. I gotta play. But, people were ready to see him, man. It was an exciting time, and he kind of did what they wanted to see. He scored 30 points, and that's the stuff you see in the movies, right? You come back home, You have your best game of the season, scoring-wise at least, at home. A lot of them, felt like he kind of got frozen out of the game in that fourth quarter. And if you look at it, I mean, he had 27 points through 3 quarters, shot 7 of 8 on three-pointers, and his next three-point attempt didn't come until the very end of the game. Like, he made that buzzer-beating three-point shot, and so he shot 8 of 9 on three-pointers. And I think a lot of times when guys are 7 of 8, you got to keep giving them the ball. Like, he's hot. He's got it going, and he didn't get enough shot in that case. So I think they noticed that. But it was cool. All the people. I mean, it was family. It was friends. It was old coaches, AAU coaches, his brothers, sister. Just the whole family. And I mean, everyone. It was just kind of a surreal moment for them because this was the wow. This is especially for his brothers. Like, this is really happening.
DeMichael, this front office has at one time built a vast reservoir of goodwill. It got chipped away a little bit. Do you ever get from Zach Kleiman, et al., and maybe some of the other front office functionaries a feeling of, told you, we knew what we were doing, we got it right with Wells?
Not so much from Zach. Zach is I don't think he's too big into the victory laps like that. But I'm telling you what, if it was me, I would be.
He could take one
because people are so critical of you in this job, but yeah, I mean, it's not even. It's Jalen. It's. I mean, wait till you guys see GT. Oh, he's put on some muscle, guys, and I mean, we'll see what it means for him. But
when will we?
Yeah.
When will we see him?
I think a couple weeks. But I think a couple weeks. But he was definitely getting some shots up in Golden State, doing some more on the court activity as well. So he's trending that way. But yeah, I think with those guys, Vince Williams as well. They have their second round fine, and even when they've missed on a David Roddy, so to speak, or declined the option of a Jake LaRavia, who was a first round pick, they have cases where they kind of made up for it, in those fines. And Jalen Wells is everything that this team needed.
Yeah, he has been fantastic. Another fun story was the next night when Cam Spencer got to take the floor against his brother Pat. Both guys, I don't think either played in the first couple of meetings against Golden State this year. I know Cam's been out with that injury. Pat on a two-way with Golden State, but they were able to do that Saturday night. Both played about 12 minutes or so, got to guard each other. What did both those guys have to say after that one?
Yeah, I mean, that was the whole theme of that trip, right? It was just a big family affair.
It really was.
I mean, it was cool. But yeah, the Pat and Cam Spencer one was interesting because the first time the Grizzlies and Warriors played, they played 3 times this year. First time they played, Pat played in that game, but Cam didn't play. And then the second time was the big blowout. Cam played in that one, but Pat didn't play. So it was back and forth. And then coming into this one, the Warriors, they'd known ahead of time that, Steph Curry was going to miss the first leg of their back-to-back. So he was out. Brandon Podziemski was out. So Pat kind of had a clue, okay, I'm going to play in this game. And then, of course, on the Grizzlies side, Luke Kennard gets the sore hamstring. A couple other guys, in the backcourt, Marcus Smart's out. So the minutes kind of cleared the way for both of them. So their mom was able to make the trip.
That's awesome.
And so they're Maryland natives. So their mom was able to make the trip. Dad wasn't able to make it out, but they got mom up there for the moment, and it was cool for them. And it's funny because if you know about those brother relationships, a lot of times emotions aren't a huge driving force behind those relationships. Sometimes it can be, but in the case of Cam and Pat Spencer, if you've heard any of the stories about them growing up, it's more about fight and competitive, basketball, than hugs and crying, so that was kind of their perspectives growing up. And I remember after the game, we were talking to Cam Spencer about the moment, and was it emotional or whatever? And he was like, "No, the only emotion we ever really showed was anger." And then, you go to Pat Spencer, who's Big Brother, by the way. Pat Spencer's 28, and it's different because that's Big Brother, and he said he was just proud. It was a special moment for the both of them. It was good. It was good that they both had the heads up and they knew that it could happen. And it was just another situation where, again, the NBA is very small, and when you get to see those type of things happen, it's pretty cool.
From the Commercial Appeal, DeMichael Cole with us every Monday talking all things Grizzlies. And DeMichael, do you expect the Grizzlies to make a deal? And if you do expect that, do you think it's imminent or it will push more toward trade deadline time?
More towards trade deadline time, because I think there are some things that you probably want to see internally before you make that decision, especially, in my opinion, I think you want to see where G.G. Jackson and Vince Williams are. If those two come back and they look like they've taken a leap, we'll see the Grizzlies probably not. I mean, they'll be aggressive, but they'll be more controlled. Whereas if it looks like you can't really trust either of those players, which is certainly possible. I mean, G.G. Jackson is coming off of a major surgery here, and Vince Williams hasn't played much competitive basketball since last March. So, it's possible that, hey, both of these guys are going to need a lot more time than the Grizzlies can afford in a season where they're in position to be one of the better teams in the Western Conference. So if we get to mid-January here, late January, when these guys potentially could be back, and we're not seeing enough confidence from the Grizzlies side, and hey, these guys could be playoff players for us, then you got to ante up the aggressiveness a little bit, and I think that'll play a role in how they approach the deadline. But I do think a move's made eventually.
There's been a lot of rumors out there over the last couple of days with everything happening in Miami. There have been some odds out there posting the Grizzlies as the favorites to land Jimmy Butler. Do you buy any of those rumors that maybe the Grizzlies would be interested in Jimmy Butler?
I think they'll poke around just to be in the conversation for sure. We'll see, how much comes of it, but yeah, I think there's certainly some interest there. I mean, the Grizzlies, quite frankly, they should be involved in pretty much any conversation because this isn't going to make sense, especially for people who've been following the Grizzlies and all the injuries that they've had. But the Grizzlies are too deep, in my opinion. Like, there's depth, and there's having too many players. Now, it doesn't feel like they have too many players because players are always hurt around here. But at the same time, when you look at an NBA roster, when you got 13 or 14 guys who feel like they should have playing time, which that's the case on this roster, you got probably 13, 14 guys on standard contracts who feel like they should be playing and who've been playing decently well when they have played. You might got to move a couple of those to kind of, clear up some opportunity for some guys and things like that. Like a guy like Luke Kennard, his minutes have been all over the place this season, and that just wasn't something that we expected. But it's because the team is so deep. So I say that to say that they have the ability, unlike some other teams, to go out and trade three guys and get one guy back because they'll still be deeper than most teams in the league. Like, the Grizzlies are so deep. If you talk about a team that has 14 guys who could play minutes for you, you take 2 or 3 guys off of that, well, you go from 14 to now 11 guys who feel like they deserve minutes, and you're still, deep enough to withstand an injury or two.
DeMichael, we know in any trade you got to give to get. You mentioned the possibility of even 3 going out for 1. Who is the one player, realistically, we know who's not in some deals? Who would be involved in a deal that if the Grizzlies cut loose from this guy, that would cause the fans not uproar, not outrage, but the fans would most miss seeing this guy go out?
I think Brandon Clark. I was going to say Des Bane, but I think that one's a little more self-explanatory. But Brandon Clark is the one there because he has the salary, where if you talked about go and get some of these bigger players, there are some salaries that'll have to potentially be involved. Guys like a Marcus Smart, Luke Kennard, Brandon Clark, not all of them, but if a trade was to happen, at least two of those potentially would have to be involved. And as I said, with Brandon Clark, he's a guy who his numbers haven't been as, productive when you look at just the raw stats in terms of scoring and things like that this season. But his plus-minus numbers have been really good. As a starter, he's been really good for the Grizzlies. I think when he plays 22 minutes or more, the Grizzlies are like 9-3 or something this season. He's been really good. And he's definitely one, especially with the fact that, look, I mean, we know that based off what we've seen, Zach Edey is going to be a player that the Grizzlies should be able to trust in a lot of situations going forward. But clearly, with the way that they go back and forth with these two in the lineup, there's still some things they want Zach Edey to work on before there's full confidence in him being the bona fide starting center for this team. So you lose the option of having Brandon Clark in those scenarios by trading him. So, and he's also, one of the longest tenured players on the team. He's one of Jaren's closest friends. He's been here with Ja, same season, same draft. So, there's a lot that would come with that, if that were the move to be made. So I think Brandon Clark is the one who draws the attachment factor. But financially, he's going to be a name that's going to be discussed because of, of the money.
DeMichael, last thing for you real quick. Tonight against the Dallas Mavericks, we know Luka won't play. We learned earlier today that Kyrie will be out as well. What do you expect to see in tonight's game, and what do you want to see from this Grizzlies team tonight?
Well, you remember last game, it was Spencer Dinwiddie who gamed the Grizzlies late, right? I mean, down the stretch of that fourth quarter, he was the one that hurt him. But, you can't overlook this Dallas team. No Luka, no Kyrie. You still cannot overlook this team. And the reason you can't overlook them is because they're still one of the better defenses in the NBA. Luka and Kyrie handled most of the scoring, right? But if you go back to that game against Dallas, in Dallas, that was a physical defense, and that was one of those playoff-type defenses. And they challenged the Grizzlies. They took them out of rhythm because of all the fouls and whatnot, but they challenged them. And they made things tough. And look, with all due respect to Luka and Kyrie, they weren't the reasons. They were not the reasons. It was the P.J. Washington. It was the Derek Lively. It was those type of guys that they have, and those guys are still going to be in the lineup. So with that being said, that's what it comes down to for me. Dallas still has some scores. They still got Spencer Dinwiddie, Jaden Hardy, Klay Thompson. Those guys are still over there. So it's not like they're just void of scoring now. So this is, again, look, it's not Dallas at full health, but at the same time, it's not the Grizzlies at full health either. So it's going to be a good one.
Yeah, hopefully it's a really fun game tonight. DeMichael, as always, thanks so much for joining us, and we'll do it again next week.
All right, take care, guys.
DeMichael Cole joining us every Monday to talk Grizzlies. And again, only a couple hours until that game tonight against the Dallas Mavericks. He kind of talked about it when we were just speaking with him about how obviously Luka and Kyrie are out, but we know kind of those quote-unquote Grizz killers that Dallas has. Dinwiddie most recently with a big game, and kind of the defensive woes the Grizzlies have faced in terms of turnovers on, I guess that would be the offensive end, but then giving up so many threes these last two games on the road. I want to see this team bounce back with Dallas being shorthanded tonight.
And Taylor Jenkins just in the last few minutes in availability before tonight's game said that on Ja Morant's return, it will be in the shorter term and not long term.
Yeah, that's good news. And so I saw that as well, and kind of saying that no timetable yet, can't pinpoint it, I think is what he said, pinpoint the return, but certainly that is good news, at least that it sounds like maybe sooner rather than later, because you definitely don't want to miss him for the long run, with how good he's been. Another update: Luke Kennard will be available tonight. He was reported originally when Grizzlies PR put out their status report yesterday for tonight's game. He was listed as out, and then earlier today they updated that he had been upgraded to questionable, and now it is being reported that he will be available for tonight's game against Dallas. Well, we need to get to another break, but before we do that, let me remind you about our 5 o'clock sponsors. It's Jaguar Land Rover Bluff City. Jaguar Bluff City, they've been the premier Jaguar dealership for the greater Memphis area since 1984. The talented team, they're ready to help you find your next perfect vehicle at unbeatable rates. Swing by Jaguar Land Rover Bluff City today and check out the new 2025 models like the 2025 Range Rover Sport, the 2025 Range Rover Velar, and the 2025 Defender. Test drive the Range Rover Sport, where luxury meets performance. It's a perfect mix of style, performance, and versatility, with options ranging from 360 horsepower up to 635. It's also available as a plug-in hybrid electric vehicle with $7,500 federal tax credit when leased with approved credit. Take a look at the Range Rover Velar, powered by mild hybrid technology and enhanced with the latest well-being features and fully connected entertainment system. The Range Rover Velar is the ultimate luxury compact crossover. Purchase yours today and get special 4.4% for 72 months financing available with approved credit. Don't forget about the Defender, available in multiple models to fit your needs. The Defender is built for the modern explorer, and Jaguar Bluff City is offering special interest rates for 60 and 72 months on various models. Give them a call, 877-259-6169. Go online, jaguarbluffcity.com, but please go out, give them a visit, test drive these beautiful vehicles. 6335 Wheel Cove, right there just off of Quince for Bluff City Jaguar. Well, let's get to a break, and when we come back, we'll talk about what's trending.
Broadcasting from the Family Leisure Studio, we are Sports 56 and 98.5 FM.
For over 8 decades, America's farmers have counted on the little red tractor from Case IH, the Farm Hall, to help them make short work of their demanding chores. Mid-South Ag can show you they aren't just for farms anymore. With horsepower ranging from 30 to 105, plus an army of attachments, they can tackle every chore on your to-do list. From hauling and mowing to loading and towing and then some. Stop by Mid-South Ag Equipment or call 662-890-3141 to find a Case IH Farm Hall that's right for you.
Hi, this is Troy Five-Ash, owner of Five-Ash Roofing. Did you know there are so many roofing companies in Memphis that I don't even know them all? So that begs the question, which one should you choose? So I thought I'd give you a little background about me. My grandfather was a World War II Marine. My father worked for the University of Memphis for nearly 30 years. My mother, a pianist at Raleigh Baptist Church. Seems like forever. I went to Brownsville Road, Craigmont, and Bartlett High School, class of 81. We support the local school systems, youth athletics, and believe in what St. Jude and Le Bonheur stand for. I'm a Tiger and Grizz fan. The point? Memphis is my home. Five-Ash Roofing will be around if you ever have a problem with the service we provide. Five-Ash Roofing, fair, honest, and ethical, with deep local ties in our community. 367-0050 or memphisroofer.com.
Five-Ash Roofing is what we do. We're here for you.
The Family Leisure floor model sale is happening right now through the end of January. Family Leisure has got to get rid of all the 2024 inventory because all the new 2025 items are starting to arrive. All floor models are up to 50% off. You want a cold plunge tub? They start at $49.99. Go the other route with a hot tub. Get $3,000 off with free steps and chemicals. Family Leisure has pool tables, arcades, ping pong, air hockey, even baseball tables from 20 to 60% off. Well, here's it. Family Leisure has theater seating up to 75% off. Plus, now's the time to start thinking about pool seats. You can buy it now, get on the installation schedule, and be ready before everyone else. Special financing is also available. Hey, if you want to get free delivery on any of these items, you just tell the phone staff at Family Leisure that you heard this commercial. It's the floor model sale. Now, through the end of January, Family Leisure, 100 I-40, family and fun come together.
Bonus Rebel Yacht is
The largest full-service glass company in the U.S. They've been an industry leader for over 145 years. For all your residential, commercial, or auto glass needs, Bentwinger Glass is the name you need to know. 24-hour emergency service for all commercial customers, plus a nationwide warranty on all professionally installed glass. Visit Bentwinger Glass in Midtown at 340 South Hollywood across from the Liberty Bowl. Visit BentwingerGlass.com. Bentwinger Glass.
Well, the NFL regular season has come to an end. We've got the playoffs that will get started this weekend with the wild card, but we know what today means, and really it's starting to not become, Black Monday. It's really becoming, the Sunday evening where these teams are making quick decisions, like the Patriots did yesterday with
World
Gerard
record
Mayo. I mean,
quick decision for
he
them.
didn't even make it to the locker room before they had made.
Should have never been hired.
No.
And Robert Kraft, to his credit, he apologized for putting him in a situation that he just simply wasn't ready for. No. But he was the coach in waiting, and what'd that get him?
I mean, not much at all. 1 year, I guess, is what it got him. But
poor Doug Peterson, it felt like he was fired in the season.
Yeah, no, it felt like
he got fired again.
He's been a dead man walking for most of this year, it felt like. And so now they have officially fired him. But for
Super Bowl winning coach.
It's crazy. It's crazy. But, I mean, we just keep getting further and further from that
it just highlights how great Nick Foles was.
Oh, thank you, Brad. I mean, you beat me to it. I mean, my
Your
love
man,
for Nick Foles. I mean, he really is a hero. Should be an NFL hero, not just a Philadelphia hero for what he did. But, you got to imagine that, those two jobs, I think especially the New England job with now, a high draft pick in this year's draft, and then I think a really good young quarterback. I think Drake May showed this year that he can be a good quarterback in this league. They still have a lot of issues everywhere else on the field, it feels like.
It's Mike Vrabel.
Well, yeah.
It just has to. I mean,
it's
legendary
right?
Patriot.
I didn't even think about that, but you're right. It's got to be Vrabel. But that seems like a good opening in the NFL.
He's kind of Belichick without all the hallway baggage.
Man, that would be a great fit if they went out and got Vrabel. I'd love that.
And Ohio State's not opening, and I don't think was if Ohio State had lost the home campus game.
Yeah, no. It was never going to come open.
Now Ryan Day may be looking to leave. He's not going to be fired.
Mm-hmm. I wouldn't put it past him. I mean, when you have been really good and still people want you out, that's got to be hard to put up with.
There's going to be more firings tomorrow, though, isn't it?
It feels like it. I think. The Colts put out something yesterday. Irsay put out something about Shane Steichen. It feels like he's probably safe. Seems like Brian Callahan is probably safe in Nashville. But
if they're both safe, it may not be many more.
It may not. But I think Daboll feels safe. But with that being New York,
no, they announced it. He's good. Everybody's
they
back.
officially announced it. Okay, wow. So. Maybe we don't see any movements. I think I'm
two
crossing my
franchises
fingers with Mike McCarthy, though.
Two franchises in the 21st century, Colts and Giants.
Mm-hmm.
Thank God for Peyton and Eli Manning for both of them.
Oh, man.
Ain't won jack before them or since.
Yeah, no, they really haven't, but got some good years with both those guys.
I mean, Peyton, look what all he covered up goofball hearsay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And if the Raiders if their tagline commitment to excellence, the Giants' tagline would be commitment to profits.
Yes, that's right. Could be the Cowboys. Could be their motto too.
Boy, that Cowboy lost yesterday, Brian. I did. I felt for you.
It's
they
okay.
invented a new way to lose yesterday.
Story of the year, and then to go out.
But to still for the Cowboys though, with all the injuries and all the stuff that always surrounds them, if they had won yesterday, they didn't. So I can't stand the if world. But that would have been quite an accomplishment. I'm sitting there thinking, tomorrow I'm going to praise the Cowboys for winning 8, and then they do all that and they only win 7.
Yeah, it was, I personally think the worst thing that could have happened to them because they get hot late in the season. I mean, Mike McCarthy was as good as done, and then they go out there and start winning games, and I immediately start going in my head, okay, now they can say, well, Dak Prescott hadn't been in there. You've got injuries on the defense. A lot of guys banged up. Mike McCarthy isn't the issue here. The issue is the injuries. And here we are. And now I guess we're waiting to see if
Zach Taylor today fired a lot of assistant coaches. He's there's no change in Cincinnati.
No.
He better not get off, and they're used to doing it. He better not get off to a 1-4 start next year.
Yeah, well, that's what those moves kind of felt like today. Of hey, you're on the hot seat. You better not let next year start off slow, and you need to make some changes very quickly.
Who's the pressure on? Player, coach, franchise, heading into these playoffs. Super Wild Card Weekend coming up. It's not on Kansas City.
No, certainly not. Certainly not.
Is it on Detroit?
Yeah, maybe, but I still think
it's on 2 players.
Who's that?
It's on Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson.
Yeah.
You got for Lamar Jackson, you got to move along in the bracket.
Mm-hmm.
And for Josh Allen, you got to not win it all. You got to get to Super Bowl Sunday.
Yeah, because I think with the Lions, they still have a lot of injuries. I think if something happens with them,
do you really trust Jared Goff to win you a Super Bowl? I mean, he can go on those stretches where he looks like super quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that consecutive completion streak, and then he can make a throw of. That's why McVay and the Rams gave up on you.
Yeah, no, he definitely can. But I mean, those weapons they have. I mean, they do a good job. Even when
is it any scenario for the Rams and the Lions to meet in the NFC Championship game?
No,
there's not.
Yeah, no,
there's not.
Doesn't look like it now.
No, because no, there's not.
No realistic way. I guess
that would be ironic.
It would be. It'd be great.
Among other words.
Yes, certainly. But no, that'd be fun. But no, I don't think we'll see that.
I think the lookout for our team. It's 2, and they play each other this weekend. The winner of Buccaneers Washington. They could spoil somebody's fun.
Yeah, I think you mentioned that earlier, talking about the Buccaneers. I mean, I know they are the 6th seed. They're a 3-point favorite, or excuse me, they're the 3 seed, 3-point favorite against the Commanders. But man, I think that's a team I would not want to see them. I still think the Commanders, really fun. I wouldn't want to see them, but certainly you never know with a young quarterback what happens. But the Buccaneers, with how Baker's been playing, a veteran quarterback, I would not want to meet that team really at any point during the playoffs.
Is it an NFL rule that when the Texans make the playoffs, they're always the first Saturday game?
Feels like it.
They're always in that spot, aren't they?
Feels like that is a.
Let's start the playoffs with the Texans. Yeah. They're going nowhere, but here we are.
But we'll get everyone excited with Texans football.
Didn't C.J. Stroud, in effect, have the first year? He should have had the second year first and the first year second.
Yeah, I mean, he definitely had a little bit of a
caught up to him a little.
Yeah, sophomore slump this year. But no, I mean, I still
think back-to-back playoff years.
Yeah, and exactly. And I
for
love,
a place that hadn't won much.
Exactly. I love where this Texans team is right now. I mean, feels like you've got your quarterback and your coach, for a long time. That I feel like you'll have a lot of success with both those guys.
And then there's the Bo Nix story.
Oh man,
I mean,
what
just
a story. He's been awesome.
They just gave up on him at Auburn.
They did. He goes to Oregon, is great at Oregon, and then
and Sean Payton, quarterback guru.
Sean Payton is awesome, and then we were talking about it last week. The the just classic Sean Payton of coming out preseason and saying Bo Nix is QB3 on our roster right now, and of course no way was he QB3.
He wanted to push him.
He wanted to push him. He wanted to see what he had in him, and he had has a really good quarterback. I mean, he's been. I was talking, when we had Bruce Marshall on Friday. I said, Bruce, the Broncos have been your team lately. And he was like, yeah, I mean, with how they've been playing and everyone continues to doubt them, why would you not keep backing them? And, a tough game for them in the first round in the wild card. But, the Broncos have been a really fun team to watch. And Bo Nix has been one of the bigger stories of the year.
Heavy favorites. Chargers, Texans start things on Saturday with the Chargers 3-point favorite. Look out for Jim Harbaugh.
Yeah.
In the playoffs. Then Steelers, Ravens on Prime Saturday night. Baltimore, 10-point favorite. That didn't feel like enough. Over Pittsburgh. Sunday, Broncos at Bills, 9-point favorite. The Bills are over the Broncos. Then Packers and Eagles on Fox in the 3:30 game. Philadelphia, 4-point favorite over Green Bay. And the whole Jordan Love availability will be in question there. And then Commanders, Buccaneers on Sunday Night Football on NBC. And there's a reason why they picked that one. That's probably the best matchup.
Yeah, no, that is a really good matchup. And, kind of going back to that Packers and Eagles game, I mean, both those quarterbacks right now, question, I think you feel pretty good that Jalen Hurts will be back with concussion. He's been out for a couple of weeks. But, yeah, with Jordan Love, I mean, going down in that game yesterday, that is a scary story to have to be following as you get ready for against a good Eagles team that has been maybe one of the more surprising teams with how last year played out, bringing everybody back and having so much success this year.
And then next Monday night, Vikings at Rams.
Yeah,
that's some good matchups. Even the bigger point spread favorites. I think there's going to be an upset or two in there.
Oh man, I mean, I don't want to call an upset for it, but because I think the Ravens are the hottest team in football right now. But I mean, just the fact that you have a wild card matchup of Saints and Ravens, I mean, that just
Steelers.
Steelers. I mean, that is
Mike Tomlin.
Yeah, I mean, that's an awesome matchup in a wild card game.
And Detroit sitting back as the 1 seed like Kansas City.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody had Kansas City in the preseason kind of being there, and a lot of people had Detroit. And I'm for Detroit the rest of the way.
You're Detroit Lions.
Well, all these weeks of being a Lions fan really starting to pay off.
Starting to pay off for you.
8, 9, 10 weeks of being a fan.
Yeah, you're getting that
really paid the price.
Number 1 seed shirt. You got your division champ shirt. I mean, what are we doing? You got to get some gear.
We play for more than that.
That's
Detroit.
right. Yeah, that's right.
Lions pride.
Playing for Super Bowls.
I would like to see the Lions against either the Bills or the Chargers. None of those teams have ever won it. The Lions have never even been in a Super Bowl.
Yeah, we were talking about that before the show started. I think Lions and Bills would be such a fun Super Bowl, with all the storylines there, the players, those quarterbacks, those coaches. That'd be a fun Super Bowl.
And Buffalo, with the lack of success for the Sabres all these years, and the disappointments from the Bills, they're ready to crack through. They're lost the NBA team once upon a time, and for the Lions, just the futility. I mean, went 0-16 one year.
Oh yeah, I mean the grocery bags on the head became popularized in Detroit, and so
they've had championships out of the Tigers, of course, in hockey, and out of the Pistons, but and shoulda. I still say they gave away the game last year against San Francisco.
Yeah, and so I like seeing, and for the Lions, a great opportunity for them. With this bye to, try to get some of those guys a little more healthy because they've really been, and a lot of people thought that was going to crush them is all of those injuries, but they have continued to play really well, but hopefully, I don't know the timetable for a lot of those guys, but maybe you can get a couple of those guys back but before you get back to playing.
This weekend in the NFL, a lot of those games look like preseason games.
Oh, man, yeah, that's final week of the regular season for you. I mean, heck, that Denver and Chiefs game. I mean, the fact that Denver did everything they wanted because you couldn't even recognize
Kansas City did everything
Kansas City.
but forfeit.
Yes, I mean you could not recognize that Kansas City team.
And it's why, and I know why, but so many people want to be so critical of Cam Ward and his decision. But we're not critical of maintenance games in the NBA. We're not critical of whatever that was put out there. And we've had this term in sports as long as I can remember being a sports fan for in Major League Baseball down the last stretch of the year of playing out the string.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
But Cam Ward decides to do it, and he's public enemy number one. I've said forever, Brian, I have, nobody's making them play. No. And if you decide you want to quit playing at halftime, that's your prerogative.
Well, Brett, what was it, 4 or 5 years ago, maybe even shorter, when, Lovie Smith got fired for winning the game at the end of the season because they wanted to tank so bad and get the number one pick. It's crazy.
And I knew that was going to happen in college football. Said it years ago that you're going to have somebody opt out, that you may even have somebody during the game. Hey, I've had enough. I don't need any more hits to my knee.
Mm-hmm. And we have certainly seen that, and we saw it with Cam Ward in that game a couple weeks ago.
And then the reaction, of course, that was about as predictable too.
No, yeah, you knew you were going to get that type of reaction.
But nobody's making them play. You can quit when you want to.
Yeah, and so I think we're only going to see more of that.
There were some bowl teams that had very late ads. They were planning on not having players that showed up the day of the bowl and said, "Hey, I want to play." Get in there, play.
Hope you brought your cleats.
Yeah, had to change numbers for some. Insert Juice Wells here.
I was about to say, it sounds like you're speaking of experience. But,
it was a very late ad.
Wow, that's wild. I love stories like that. That's bowl season for you, is when you get those
type
of stories. Good Lord. And then we got a championship game tonight in FCS.
We do, and how ironic. Montana State started week 0, the last game, I think, of the day of week 0 against New Mexico.
They played New Mexico, that's right.
Pretty big favorites. New Mexico played well, came up just short. Montana, won 15 straight since then, and not one but 2 great running backs for Montana State.
Yeah, so that'll be fun. And they're
2 over 1,000 yards rushers.
Yeah, it's crazy. They're playing in the same stadium Memphis played the Frisco Bowl in the Toyota
Stadium of Champions.
That's right. So that'll be fun tonight. Well, let's go ahead and get to our final break of the day. And when we come back, we'll wrap up today's show with Crunch Time.
to 50% off. Go want a cold plunge tub? They start at $49.99. Go the other route with a hot tub. Get $3,000 off with free steps and chemicals. Family Leisure has pool tables, arcades, ping pong, air hockey, even baseball tables from 20 to 60% off. Want beer seating? Family Leisure has theater seating up to 75% off. Plus, now's the time to start thinking about pool seats. You can buy it now, get on the installation schedule, and be ready before everyone else. Special financing is also available. Hey, if you want to get free delivery on any of these items, you just tell the phone staff at Family Leisure that you heard this commercial. It's the floor model. So now, through the end of January, Family Leisure with 100 I-40. Family and fun come together.
Fall is football at the Owner's Box Sports Bar and Grill in Lakeland, Town Square. Monday through Friday, it's happy hour from 3 to 6. $1 off all draft games, $5 off meal drinks, $4.50 for house wine, mozzarella sticks, queso, $4 today. Friday night lights from 7 o'clock. Dine in and mozzarella wings, $8. Free. Watch college football at every pro game. All at the Owner's Box Sports Bar and Grill in Lakeland. Highway 70, fall is football.
This is pretty cool, and we're just getting started, so.
Spanning the globe.
Go crazy, folks! Go crazy!
This is Geraldo. It is crunch time.
You are looking live. In your life have you seen anything like that? Goodbye! Hello, Haskell.
It's obviously crunch time.
Hammer, nail, coffin. This baby is over.
Well, Brett, what I learned today is that Saturday night, the Chicago Bulls honored Derrick Rose during halftime of their game against the Knicks. Both teams wore warm-up shirts that had 5-4-25, which was really cool. 1, obviously the number he wore with the Bulls, 4, the number he wore with the Knicks, and 25, the number he wore at Simeon High. It was also the date that game was being played on, so it was a lot of really cool stuff. They honored him at halftime, had this whole ceremony. They also announced on Saturday that they will retire his jersey and retire the number 1 next season. The date and game has not been announced just quite yet, but really cool to see that the Bulls are going to retire that number. He will only be the 5th Bull in team history, franchise history, to have his number retired, joining Jerry Sloan, who wore number 4, Bob Love, who wore number 10, Michael Jordan, number 23, and Scottie Pippen, number 33.
That's a good list. When does he get his number retired by the University of Memphis?
That's a good question. Hopefully,
should he?
Absolutely, I think he should.
I think so, too. Yeah. I mean, take a team to a NCAA tournament final game in just minutes from winning it, and puts me in the tough position of having to defend John Calipari, heavily criticized by Razorback fans for flying to the ceremony Saturday night. The game had already been played. Yeah. You wouldn't have been mad if he had won.
Exactly.
So don't be mad at him because he went and was with a former player, one of his beloved former players. What I learned every time Bo Nix wins a game in the NFL, Gus Malazan from Hughes, who has a stadium named after him in Hughes, he should be made to pay back Auburn $100,000. If he can't pay it, in lieu of payment, take 10 slaps to the face from Charles Barkley. Pay $100 or take 10 slaps from Charles Barkley. That is coaching malpractice of the biggest sort ever, that he couldn't get any more out of him there, and Sean Payton's done it in 6 months.
Yeah, no, he's been fun to watch this year, but yeah, it does make you scratch your head and wonder, how did this
Gus
guy
wrote a
not
book,
work
you
out?
remember?
He did, you're right.
What a joke.
I forgot about that. What I could have done without was the news that came out yesterday and the Dallas Cowboys. Obviously, yesterday, one of the big stories was a lot of these guys playing for bonuses, playing for different things, and it was announced yesterday morning that Trey Lance would start for the Cowboys instead of Cooper Rush. And then it came out that in Cooper Rush's contract, he has an incentive that if he played more than 55% of the snaps in a season, he would get an additional $250,000. He would have only needed a couple drives in yesterday's game to get over that 55% mark. And so the Cowboys made the decision to start Trey Lance and play Trey Lance the entire game instead of Cooper Rush. Jerry Jones was asked about it after the game yesterday and why he didn't play Cooper Rush and if it had to do with the contract. And Jerry Jones says that quarterback Cooper Rush's contract incentive would have been reached, or he would have been paid if he had reached it, and that was not the reason he did not play. Please. Trey Lance hasn't played at all, and then you're sitting Cooper Rush that final week. Shame on you, Jerry Jones.
Jerry had to save money for the submarine.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it costs money to keep the submarine,
that's great
the
play
yellow
by
submarine
you,
going,
yeah,
doesn't it?
That sure does.
I could have done without this, and I called my shot before the bowl started. You can take anything you want out of the bowls, but I hear people saying, that bowl records don't matter. Well, it's a good thing bowl records and performances don't matter, because I hear people praising the AAC record because it was good. I hear some criticizing the ACC record because it wasn't good. The Big Ten now saying it matters. And, of course, the bowl season, proof positive that the SEC was, is, and always been overrated. You can take out of the bowl season anything you want.
It's like, there's a lot of things in sports. It's stats, you can take whatever you want out of it. Off seasons, you can take
Work it any argument you want to.
Spring games, you can take whatever you want out of it.
The make-believe games in college basketball before the season.
The secret scrimmages, and certainly bowl games are the exact same way.
Here's what we're getting down to. I hear so many people telling me how many things don't matter around sports. What matters?
That's a good question. Yeah, if so much doesn't matter, something's got to matter.
Yeah.
What is it? Oh, good Lord. Where are you beaming?
Beam me up to FedEx Forum. Wish I could go for, right now, currently third seed Grizzlies against the Luka and Kyrie Irving-less Mavericks. 20-15 for the Mavs. All time, 37-76. The Grizzlies franchise against Dallas. 4-game losing streak for Miriam Adelson and Mark Cuban's Mavs. December 3rd in Dallas, 121-116 Mavs.
Yeah, down both their stars and really struggling. Grizzlies a 4.5-point favorite over the Mavs. Beam me to Toyota Stadium in Frisco, Texas for the FCS championship game. Starts in just a couple minutes between North Dakota State and Montana State. Montana State enters the game undefeated, looking for its first national championship since 1984. On the other side, North Dakota State looking for its 10th FCS title and its first since 2021. North Dakota State, I realized this earlier today when looking at this game. They have all 9 of their FCS titles since 2011. That is incredible.
Yeah, dominant. Tonight, watch the Grizzlies and the turnovers, and we don't need any more injuries against Dallas, either team. And in college basketball, an old Southwest Conference game in the Big 12, TCU and Houston, now back in a conference together.
Back together.
They were once conference mates with the Tigers in a conference.
The times, they are a-changing. But no, it should be a fun night with the NBA. Some college basketball, like you said, that's probably the most notable college basketball game of the night. And then the FCS championship game. So some stuff on the television tonight. Enjoy it all. If you're going to the Grizzlies game, safe travels to that. Enjoy your night, and we'll talk to you again tomorrow afternoon.
Every gun you can think of.
Smith & Wesson, Brennan, Loretta, Benelli, Remington, Winchester, and more. Guarantee lowest prices in town. Only Davy Brewer in the Mid-South. Free gun inspections, appraisals, and free brewer sighting for the upcoming beer season. Shop online at ClassicArmsAndMemphis.com or visit Classic Arms at 1740 Georgetown Parkway behind Craigie's Barbecue in Cordova.
Jenkins Floors and More invites you to their retail warehouse where they pass wholesale savings on to you. Jenkins Floors in Little Rock, Cleveland, Mississippi, and now open in Horn Lake at 2356 West Goodman Road. Specializing in flooring and carpeting, tile, plantation shutters, and blinds, Jenkins makes your life easy with a 2-week turnaround. Contractors, builders, or family projects, call 662-469-9350 for a free estimate.